Right. So we have gone through time. We have gone through time and also money-related issues. Okay, so time-related issues with the things like extension of time, liquidated damage, commencement date, completion, delays, and from delays we are doing also how to apply for extension of time, and also how to, I mean, if you don't get extension of time, you will get LAD, you know. And then one of the reasons for delays can be site possession. So the start date are usually related to site possession. So the moment you possess the site, the clock will tick. It will start to run already, and that's the start date. Basically, usually the start date. It's not really the contract award date, because the contract award date, you need to be able to officially sign over the site to the contractors, or you know, like how you are in manufacturing, you need to be able to sign over the starting work date, you see, with the supplier, or your supplier actual start supply date, you see. So this is about properly handing over the factory, handing over the job, you know, to the people who are doing the service, or the people who are actually providing the work for you, you see. So you cannot just simply say, oh, I signed a contract with you and I started, and then you never give the site, and they can never access the site. And then how are they going to do the job, you see? So from commencement date, we are also looking at access. I will explain access in the next lecture. I was thinking of putting it into today's lecture, but I thought, it's a bit weird, you know, so I should put access in the next lecture. Actually, I could put access in the first lecture and the last lecture under the others, you know, stuff, you see. Yeah. So then that is your commencement date. You know, contractually, that will be your commencement date. And if you can't get possession of site, which in many cases could be an issue, you are usually entitled for extension of time. That is one of the excusable, compensable reason of delay. See, so we went through delay is excusable, non-excusable, compensable, non-compensable. So excusable usually means that those they are usually not the fault of the contractor, okay, but more to say that it's not a fault of the contractor is a bit harsh, because even if it's a fault of the contractor, sometimes it could be due to certain reason like material delays and all that, and that could actually be due to many external factors as well. So basically, we cannot really say that everything that the contractor do that is wrong, then that is it is under excusable, you see. So I mean non-excusable, sorry. And then the client and the consultant or the designer, they are dealing with the drawings, the specification, and all that. If they are wrong, then it's excusable. But generally, we will categorize them like that to make things simpler. But of course, you need to look at it case by case, whether it's excusable or non-excusable. Excusable means that it's within the reason of the contract that it can be excused, you see, that this is a valid reason to ask for extension of time. Non-excusable, of course, is the opposite. Then after that, we also look at compensable, non-compensable. Compensable are usually the one that will be granted EOT and loss and expenses, but not all the time compensable you are being granted loss and expenses. This is a very, very big areas that you need to look at. Not all the time, unless it's very specifically written in your company's agreement that these reasons you are entitled to claim for your loss and expenses. That could be very specifically written. Otherwise, normally under the usual EOT, you are under the normal extension of time delays, you are usually granted time compensation, but not money compensation. You see, that will be usually the case, and that will be usually stated very clearly in your standard form of contract or your agreement with the client or your client's agreement with you. You see, so we went through all that. Okay, so I think this is just a recap, because some of you are still doing the assignments. And then after that, because of excusable, non-excusable, these two reasons, basically, these two are the main thing that really deals with the fact that you are going to give or not give. I mean, like you can give or not give EOT. So not usually compensable reason are excusable reason. Okay, so non-compensable reason can be excusable reason. It can also be unexcusable reason. So if you imagine two categories here, on the left-hand side, you see the word compensable. Definitely excusable is under compensable, but under non-compensable, there could be also excusable reason and non-excusable reason as well. So under non-compensable, the category is actually a lot bigger. The scope is actually a lot bigger. And then, of course, whether we, how much time we can grant them and all that, and whether we can or not, again, also falls back to concurrent, non-concurrent, critical, non-critical. So there are certain reasons that are critical, but they don't really create any impact that is going to be impacting the schedule at the end of the day. So that could be considered as a non-critical reason. So then maybe we don't give, if we give also, if it's on the critical or non-critical region, we will also see whether the days are given as well. And concurrent, non-concurrent definitely deals with the days as well. The days that you're granting, because if it's a concurrent reason, meaning that this delay happened at the same time, okay, and both have impact, okay. And the other thing is, it may be a concurrent, as in it's not exactly happening at the same time, but the effect of one and the effect of another one is at the same time. Okay, you understand what I'm trying to say or not? Okay, it could be something happened earlier on, but the effect actually came later. But then the other one that is happening is right now, and then so these two are actually concurrent with one another. And then if the concurrent, also you need to deal with whether it's a concurrent with client excusable reason and contractor non-excusable reason. They are concurrent with one another. Do you grant or do you not grant? So actually, honestly speaking, Malaysia, at the moment, we are very, very, very lacking in delay analysis. This is a research that I would love to do. So far, I have a master's student by research doing this with me, but he's not doing that well. So, I mean, if he doesn't do that very well, I will probably start to give out the topic to like you all, like MSCEM or my MANG students later on in the third SEM, you see. I mean, it is a very interesting area that, you study all the delay analysis technique, because without properly studying the delay analysis technique, a lot of government department, authority, clients, you are always facing with a lot of unfairness, whereby you think that as a contractor, you are deserving, you see. So I'm not sure whether these are some of the issues that you have written in your assignment that you think that you deserve, because based on your calculation, you deserve the compensation. But actually, at the end of the day, they say that you are not deserving, that would be a case of dispute here. Or if they say that you are deserving of compensation, they don't give you the amount of time that is required. And because there's no standard, there's no formal standard in any contract or any EOT, in any EOT application form or anything like that, that's the standard of application. And also, standard of application, yes, that will usually be based on the company's format or the authority's format for application. But what we're talking about is there's no formal analysis technique or analysis method or review technique of the application of EOT, you see. And I asked JKR before, I've interviewed them before. No, it's not really an interview, it was just a sit down and chit chat and ask them, what was your analysis technique? And the QF themselves could not tell me. They just say that, we have a panel to review, panel on site to review, and then the panel on site will send it to the HQ. The HQ will have another panel of review. They're more talking about management of people reviewing it rather than the actual technique of reviewing. Only one of them mentioned the window pan method, but then he was not very sure of how good the window pan method is as well, you see. So that it could be that is something that with the biggest authority in whole Sarawak dealing with construction work, they don't have a proper EOT assessment method. Then what more to say if you're working for a developer or whether you're working for another smaller GLC government-linked company. It will be even worse, you see. So some of the situations that we're actually facing in the construction industry dealing with contract management now. I would have loved to see something change in that sense. So hopefully one day we will have proper delay analysis technique that is completely used by the whole industry to access. Contractor know how to use it, the client knows how to use it, and then they will both come up if we have the same numbers. If it's not the same number, the variation is not huge, sort of things. Okay, and then after that, we also deal with payment, a lot of money matters, and which usually will run into problems like overdue payment, delay or overdue payment, and then non-payment, and then underpayment. So these are the few areas that we always see that will actually that will make you take the contract out and read the contract. Okay, so for time, those are the issues that we are looking at, that you take the contract out. Normally, contract people don't take it out one. They read one. Like if as a QS, I think there's a few QSs here. You bought the read contract, normally you don't, you see. I mean, like, QS are a little bit better. If QS don't really read every single word in the contract, I would say that engineers and architects and other people are even worse, you see. So they don't really want to read every single lines, understand what is going on, and what is lacking, what is not good, and all that. They don't, you see. So, and like I said, QS are the people who are actually more concerned already, and not all of them are really well versed with the contractual terms and agreement that is not in the standard form or in a specific contract or in a specific agreement with a special client or something like that. See, so yeah, that could be issues. See, so normally we don't take contract out. The moment we take contract out, there is problems already, and then you want to refer to it to resolve the problems, isn't it? Yeah. So underpayment, we've got a few terms that you know. The usual one, life goes on one, life is fine, you're riding on the nice bus, kind of thing, watching the view will be things like interim payment, then penultimate payment, penultimate certificate. Those are the usual things that are happening, and that is fine. Nothing happens. But then if you suddenly start to have issues of non-payment or very, very delayed payment, actually we have done some last year. We have done some research in this area with contractor and consultant, and I would say about 87%, even close to 90% of contractors in the state of Sarawak actually faces delay in payment. Okay, and they are so helpless because nobody is helping them. Okay, and there's various reasons why the clients are delaying payment, and obviously recent years because of the COVID. And some people are working from home, I mean, I find that is absolutely ridiculous. You're working from home. Aren't you supposed to be working, So don't tell me that you're working from home and then they call you out, where's my payment? I haven't processed it. I'm actually working from home. You see, that what the, kind of thing. It's like, it just doesn't make sense. I work from home. I have to give lecture. I cannot say that I can't give lecture because I'm working from home, you see. So a lot of these situations are happening because of the so-called COVID, so that is why one of the things that I think COVID is really bad is it makes people's brain goes haywire and, deteriorate people's working culture so badly in that sense. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, like, these are some of the reasons, and they think it's such a valid reason because it's not actually covered under the contract. And in contract, you don't cover late payment, you don't cover non-payment. So it becomes a very big issue whereby the contractor is actually put at a very, 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 very negative. And I mean, they are being put at the very dark and, in that way, and there's nothing much they can do to anything but actually wait and send a lot of what we call invoices, continue sending invoices, continue asking for payment, continue sending in claims, continue writing in notice, serving notice. It's very important contractually, even though there's nothing you can do in the contract, but to bring the case up for a dispute later or bringing the client to court, you need to serve, you need to continue serving notices, you see. And then non-payment will also, at the end of the day, you can actually try to work it out from a taxes point of view that you can put it under bad debt, and sue back for bankruptcies and all that. So there are other way of the law to actually help you, but the process is just so long, and then unfortunately, once you started on the dispute kind of route, then the whole site will stop, the work will be suspended, and basically any potential payment will be suspended. So it is very, very negative for the contractor in that sense. So unless the contractor are very, very cash rich, they will normally not go down the dispute kind of route. But if they are so cash rich and you're still owing them money, it's actually not fair for them as well, you see. I mean, like, they cannot hold on to their cash richness, like most contractors, if they can last for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, it's already very, very good. But if you start owing them for 6, 7, 8, 9 months kind of thing, it's ridiculous. And this is also happening with the ECP as well. Engineering practicing consultants, the client are not really paying them, and some of them waited for their payment over 6 months, you see, and they need to run their firm, they need to feed their workers, like we are workers, we are generally people working, we're waiting for our salary. So if your bosses are not getting payment and delay in payment and all, it's going to strongly hurt their cash flow. Not only hurt their cash flow, it's going to just tear their cash flow off, you see. They cannot pay people anymore. And when they cannot pay people, it's goodwill, they lost their good reputation. I've always heard from very, very old contractors and very old developers, they are really the very, very Chinaman style kind of people. They seriously take reputation at a very, very important level. They really take it very seriously, unlike what is happening today. Because you have to understand that if you have a good reputation, you call for a bag of concrete, your workers walk into the store, walk into the hardware shop, you order 20 bags of cement. Because of your good reputation, they say, okay, it's okay, you just put it on your lorry and you go first and you start using it first. People trust you, you see. But the moment that you end up not being on time with your payment, people start to lose trust in you. Your subcontractor lost trust in you, your supplier lost trust in you, and your workers will lose trust in you. And then they will be very careful, especially with supplier. They will start to go in with the terms of using things like cash. If you don't pay me cash, you don't take. A lot of bad reputation people we face, we say we only use the word cash with them. You don't put money in front of my face, you don't take even a nail out of my shop. I won't even send, a box of screw to you. No, even $50, I don't let you owe me. And that is cash flow. If you can't get any credit from any suppliers or any subcontractors, you are doomed. This contractor firm is doomed. I almost can tell you this person or this group of company will be over in about a year time or two. Okay, I've seen this few months, I've seen a few contractors having that problem. They haven't been paying consultation fees, they haven't been paying suppliers, and one of them is a very, very good friend of ours, and I told another good friend, another in-between person. So I didn't want to talk to that person myself because obviously I feel like I'm a lot older and he's a very young kind of guy. So I just tell a good friend of his, I said, you better go and tell him, reputation is everything, And if he started to go down the road of owing and keep on delaying payment to your subcontractors and also to some of the workers and to your consultant, to say that, the moment the wind go out, the moment that noise go out into the industry, this person will not be able to get anything and buy anything without cash. And this is the time that he will not be able to survive anymore. If everything cash, every single screw, every single nail, every single tali, even if you buy a pencil, they will charge you cash, then your company is just not going to be any good in terms of cash flow. No way. You already have a problem with cash flow. Now your cash flow is even worse because people are, it's like a negative on top of negative, It doesn't go positive. It will just go downward spiral. So I just tell him that if he's going to do this, he's going to be over in about a year time, definitely. Then we will see, whether this is going to be the case. And I've got a few And a few contractors also, they are already over. Recently, some of their project has been direct balik and all that kind of stuff, you know. And they just didn't understand that. They just understand that the importance of money, is the importance of cash in any contract and in any and any project that you embark on to, you see. So yeah, and then there's a lot of people who are actually in consultancy. They decided that they also want to go into contract, and then they started to realize that it's not so easy, you see. So then they started to have cash flow problems, and they cannot pay their workers, they cannot pay their subcontractors, they cannot pay their suppliers. And that's it lah, you know, this as good as being bankrupt lah, really speaking, You go reputation bankrupt first, and then later on you go real bankrupt, okay? So that is dealing with money issue. So I hope that you've gone through the 2 sets of notes very carefully already. I took a look at my time notes. I realized that I've missed out on site possession. So I may just give you a supplementary page or 2 later on top of the notes that I've gone through with you. I mean, I went through it because I'm going to give a course next week on time delay and time analysis and all that. So suddenly I realized, oh dear, I know, how come I didn't put any site possession? I've been talking about site possession, but I just didn't put it down in my notes. You know what happened, you see? Oh dear. So I will do that. I will do that. Okay. All right. So right. So here now we are talking about quality. So this one here, we are dealing with any of the issues that are related, contractual issues that are related to quality. Okay. Are you guys still with me, or am I just talking to the air now? Yeah, can you give me an emoji if you're still with me? Okay. All right, good. All right, you are all here still, huh? Okay. So basically, quality, we are actually looking at, first of all, I will just give you a very, very brief introduction about quality, huh? And of course, this one, for people who have taken the course before that in 6033, these are some of the repetition. But for those of you who are taking 6033 in the coming October, this will be just a very basic kind of background formation to give you a feel about why is it in the contract, you see. So in the industry, basically at the moment, we are, you know, quality control plan, you know, and quality plan are actually very important for to monitor the construction industry. I mean, again, like I said, I'm talking about construction industry. I'm a bit sorry if you guys are not from the construction industry, but unfortunately, my areas, my specialties are in construction industry. So I will go from that perspective and try to remind myself to also talk about other industries as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm not so worried about the manufacturing and the chemical people, because if we talk about quality control plan, doing QA, QC, actually the manufacturing and also oil and gas, you guys are a lot more advanced than construction industry. Okay, so I'm not so worried about you understanding this or not, because you are definitely a lot more, you are practicing a lot more, you are doing it a lot more, you know, and then you have a lot more format, a lot more technique and a lot more checklists and all sorts of things to actually look into, tools and techniques to actually help to look into construction, to look into your project and works, you see. But the point here I'm trying to make is we always start off with a proper plan. Whether you're in any industry, there will be plans to actually check for quality, plan for quality, what are your quality requirements, what are your quality specifications, and what are your quality control plans, what are your monitoring plans, and what is the thing that you need to do in order to monitor, what kind of checklist you need to use, what kind of tools do you need to do to study the results of your monitoring and all that. So we will always have a proper setup in project management, in construction management, in any management of plant and factory and production line. We always get your quality plan out first. So, but unfortunately, in the construction industry, which is a lot less advanced compared to the other industry, we do a lot of testing and inspection. So mainly our work, it revolves our QA QC, our quality plan, we talk a lot about inspection and testing. Okay, and you will see that in a lot of contracts that always have clauses dealing with inspection, dealing with testing, dealing with supervision, dealing with work method statement. And then, of course, there will be clauses that will be dealing with the things that we control, which is material, the 4Ms, material, method, machineries, and manpower. Okay, so these are the things that in QA/QC we control this, you see. So now we are from QA/QC, the physical thing, the practical thing about controlling the 4Ms, setting up the quality plan, getting all your tools and techniques ready, your staff knows are trained in all the analysis tools and techniques, you know. And then after that, when problems happen, physically we will try to solve the problem and try to get into we will try to physically, I mean, we will definitely practically, the first instinct will be solve the problem, isn't it? Practically solve the problem. Like, you know, we have an IAP that came like two weeks ago. I mean, I think you all know. And the manufacturing person was saying that, you know, we engage people to solve problems for us. So you see, the mentality is always about, we get the problem done, we get the problem sorted out. So actually, we don't revert to contract at all. You know, we will definitely practically, we try to resolve the issue. But in a lot of cases, why we revert back to contract? Because the contract, if in certain cases, some contract actually have procedures for resolving some of the quality issues. You know, they get you to do certain things. They want certain proofs. They want certain documents, you see, to actually maybe ask for compensation or ask for more time. So time plus quality, they're actually related to one another. Okay. So when they're related to one another, if it's a quality issues that you can resolve just like that, it's fine. You know, but then sometimes a lot of quality issue will be resolved, will be dissolved. Okay, not resolved. It will be dissolved into time and cost issue. And altogether, there will end up to be a contractual issues, you see. So then we will boil down to the fact that we need to look at the contract in order to see whether whatever problem that was created was actually compensable or not, or whether it is whether the repair, the rework is whose responsibilities and who must carry it out without any compensation, etc., etc. So those are the issues that we will face. If there is a quality issues, like I said, our first will be try to resolve it, you know, get it done. Like in your factory, you will just resolve the issues. You know, you need to change the parts, filter, you know, whatever. We go down that road. But then when we come back, we also need to look at if all these issues will create other forms of claims, other form of EOT applications, you know, and that again will be tied back to the contractual issues that will be actually linking all the quality related clauses with the time and cost related clauses together, whether they're entitled for the compensation or not. See? So, and also obviously the contractual issues will also be dealing with the processes, the procedures, you know, if let's say some of these issues cannot be resolved, you know, and then there is dispute, there is conflict on that issues. I don't want to do the repair. It is not my fault. And then you have to resolve back to your revert back to your contract. And then sometimes it could be dealing with supervision. Sometimes it could be dealing with inspection. Sometimes it could be dealing with testing results that is rejected. So if there's a dispute, there is a conflict or there is a disagreement over certain results or certain way of doing supervisions and instructions and variations. All these are actually one of the quality boils down, you know, it's a ripple down kind of issues that will require you, it's not about physically solving that quality issues, but it's more on resolving the quality related issues and, you know, contractually, you see. So I'll explain that as we go along, but just to get you the idea, you're wondering like why quality issue needs to look at contract, you see. So yeah, I mean, there are circumstances that we do need to revert back to the contract. Like I said, if there's a dispute over the instructions, supervisions, and a lot of this inspection, testing, rejection of the material, tools, equipment, and all that. It could be executed on site practically, but unfortunately, it will be you need to revert back to the contract to resolve those issues. So it's so very contractual issues that you need to look at. So like I say, if the work are not well done, you always say, okay, I call for a rework, I call for a replacement of parts, I call for a repair. You see, so those are very physical way of resolving quality issues. That is very practical, very logical, very reasonable. But unfortunately, there will be sometimes dispute happening. And then, of course, like I said just now, some of this dispute actually will be dissolved down to time and cost as well. So it becomes a big ball of rojak issue here, Instead of one issue, it becomes a whole bowl of rojak that is all black and muddy, even though it tastes nice, but, it's actually not, you see. So, yeah. So these are why we need to understand about quality management and what is quality management, what does it do, and how is that being projected or reflected into the contract that you have, you see. And I'm sure a lot of you do have very much of like, I'm sure is it Amalina? Like, no, it's not Amalina. There's another lady that she's been sending me the Amira, yeah. Amira has been sending me, she's from Pertama Alloy. So Pertama Alloy, you're doing manufacturing and you are looking at your own contract. And from there, yeah, I could see that, your contract will also probably cover a lot of these things inside the contract, and to make sure that the quality of the work will not be having any contractual issues later, okay, or to be resolved contractually in the proper manner, in a professional manner. Okay, so these are the areas that you will see in contract, things like material, methods, machineries. You hear words like this, you hear words like testing, inspection, supervision, and then material, method, machineries, manpower, you see. So these are typical things. And then, like I said, time, cost, quality, they are always together. So it doesn't run away from one another. So a lot of these issues can be dissolved down to budget issues and also time issues requiring payment and requiring compensation and time extension and all that. And of course, dealing a lot with we do a lot, with testing and inspection. In Malaysia, we do a lot of testing and inspection for the construction industry, and I'm sure also for a lot of the other industry, you do a lot of testing and inspection. So the word testing and inspection will definitely come up in your contract later on, a lot in your contract as well. Yeah. So then, what do you always do? In your testing and inspection plan, you always look at your process, your material, what is to be inspected, the detail of the activity, the procedures for the activity, acceptance criteria. This is very, very, very important, the acceptance criteria, a frequency of inspection, the definition of the level of inspection. You see, so if we talk about how strong the inspections are, what sort of work must be inspected, how detailed the inspection must be. So these are all listed down in your quality plan. And you will not be surprised to see that a lot of these things are actually also covered in your standard form, also covered in your contract or in your agreement. It's just a matter of sometimes it's embedded into a lot of the other clauses that you're not very sure or very clear or very specific about. That is actually a quality clauses. So here I am trying to point out to you. So if we talk about quality plan, in testing and inspection plan, we normally will cover all these details. And if all these details are actually reflected in your contract, then basically it is about physically, practically, and also contractually carrying out your duty as a construction manager, contract administrator, or project manager, or a project coordinator, or contract coordinator, or QS, or architect, or engineers, or as a supervisor, you see. So you need to see that, how testing and inspection plan is a very practical way, that you talk about the steps, the processes, and all that. But then if it's being reflected in the contract, then it will be dealt with, if any of these things are not being fulfilled, it will be dealt with in the contract. So that's why the contract and the testing inspection plan or any PQP or any project quality plan, they have to be complementing one another. Okay. So it's not about just I like to write it like this, but then my contract is something else. Then you definitely get a lot of conflict later on if this particular issue do crop up. For example, the material that was sent to site was inspected. Okay, it was inspected, but it didn't fulfill the criteria. It was rejected. Okay, so then all the work that was carried out, the detailed activity that was carried out, the work method statement that was carried out, and then upon inspection, and it was a very, very detailed inspection by one of the party, by one of the supervisor, then they realized that it's not passing, the material or the process is not passed. You see, so then it was rejected or called for rework, or the work are done, and then then you, upon inspection, you're fulfilling all these criteria of inspection, and then you realize that it is not up to standard, we reject, or we ask for a rework, or we ask for repair, or we ask for a reinforcement, or something like that. So then these sort of things will definitely straight away goes to the contract ready. You see, so it's as good as saying that when nothing happens, everybody is going on in your life as usual. When something happens, your contract is almost like your how do I call a shield? Is it a shield? Yeah, maybe it's a shield. Maybe it's your action plan. Maybe it's your corrective action plan. It can, you can look at it that way. See, so it's equally important. They must be complementing one another. They must be together. Okay. So these are the content of inspection plan that you will see that in my notes later. These are some of the things that will appear in your contract. Okay. Anything so far? Anything you need further explanation so far? Okay. All right, maybe I'll leave you with about 2-3 minutes to digest what I've said, and why is quality issues related to the practical issue. Huh? come, let's finish up this one. Today, I'm hoping, okay, to finish around 10, before 10:30, okay? I'm trying to finish before 10:30, okay? Because I've got to go and pick up my girl, and because nobody is picking her up, but my husband is on standby, but he's actually he has something important going on, so he cannot go, and my mom is actually traveling, so no one pick her up from her Mandarin class. So yeah, I mean, like, we'll see if we can finish early. If we can't, it's okay, but we will see how. Okay, so now here we're talking about, the first thing is how the contract is actually very important, that we, under the contractor's obligation, we're talking about the contractor's performance, okay? And his performance is not only about carrying out a job on time, like finishing up the job on time, putting in claims and all that. Well, the main thing is he must perform and deliver the project, okay? So within the specification that is set up, the statements that are set, work method statement, the services specification statements, the drawings, the bills of quantities. So these are all the requirements. So these are all the requirements of the contract, like it's all stated in those documents, you see. And then for the contractor, the performance is about trying to get the work done, and whether it's being definitely written very clearly or implied in the industry standard, is actually important for them to do well and deliver the project with good quality, with the integrity that is accorded to the works, you see. And they must follow the procedures, they must carry out, they must bring in the right materials. And these are part of their responsibilities, So their rights is to be paid, but they must be paid. They must give good job, to be paid, you see. So, and they must give in good service, or a service level that is deemed, considered as acceptable in the industry standard, implied or otherwise stated, you see. What we say that implied or otherwise stated, not everything can be stated very, very specifically. It's like we cannot describe everything to the very, very small detail, like, oh, the floor must be completely shiny, and then what do you mean by shiny? What do you mean by considered as glossy? Do you have a standard? Do you have a testing equipment? So it's quite impossible for us to actually completely able to describe, things like that. So a lot of these things will become an implied terms. Implied means that, sorry, wait. Sorry, give me a minute. I think I locked my maid out of the house. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Oh, I have a very colorful morning. Okay, all right. So when we talk about performance, it can be stated very clearly that you need to do this is according to this is standard, and we want to see this acceptance criteria, this level. We want to see the concrete is slump test is how much, grade 25 is how much, grade 30 is how much, the test cube is how much. Those are very, very stated type of standards. But there are some implied standards. Like we cannot, like I said, we cannot state everything to the very, very minute detail, you see. So there will be things like some wordings and all that will be implied. Implied meaning that 10 other contractors out there will be reading this, and they will be doing it in such a way, you see, or the practice has always been this way, you see. So those are called industry standards or implied standards, you see. So yeah, so it can be both. So there are times that we will use implied standards, especially if it is not being fully stated in the contract or the specifications, then we will also make sure that all the acceptance criteria, the level of acceptance, the depth of the depth of the testing and inspection, the documents that are required. We will normally state it very clearly what is required, in the different clauses in the contract. For example, if we talk about materials, we will always say that certain materials, like there will be a list of material that you will need to produce the factory certificates. So when you send this material, we want to see factory certificates, because why? We are worried that the material may be smuggled materials. It may be coming from factories that are not being accredited, maybe not MS standards, not Cerium standards and all that. So we want to see the birth cert of those material, especially like steel. Steel, every batch they will have new cert. So this new cert shows that these steels are from this factory, it produced at this time under this sort of requirement and specification. So we are quite comfortable. Concrete also we can require for certificates for delivery, POs, PALs, all these things are all these materials. If it's stated in the contract that you need to provide with the proper documentation, then you need to provide, the contractor need to provide us with it. If it's not, then most contract manager can have the right to reject those materials if they suspect that these materials are actually not within the implied and also stated standards or acceptance criteria. So again, the importance is you need to know what are the testing, what are the inspection, how frequent are the inspection. So all these are being stated in what we previously go through just now, the ITP plan. So the testing inspection plan and also PQP, it will state all these things, So then it will state down to the material, the requirement, the acceptance, the testings, the frequency of the inspections, and how do you inspect, what procedures, what testing, what tools, what equipment do you do for do you use for inspection, what criteria do you reject or set. So it's already in the plan. Your performance of the contractor will be based on that. So these are going to be reflected in your contract very clearly. And the other portion that we will always reflect is the contractor to provide supervision. So their supervision, they will always need to provide. These are their contractual responsibility. They will need to provide supervision for their workers, for their work, for their materials, for the delivery of the material, equipment, and the delivery of the work. So they must provide supervision. This word supervision is going to come in very, very heavy later on, And in contract especially, it will appear in the contract later on. Then in connection to the obligations, the contractor also, they must follow the standards, So like I said, why I said there's a link here, these two documents must complement one another. Because in this particular, most contract documents, they will say that the contractor must maintain or follow certain standards as specified. So then what is specified? So you must go through your ITP or your PQP or your factory quality production plan or production quality plan or whatever. There is standard there. So it's stated there. So then these two documents will start to complement one another. Okay. So, like I said, stated is specified, implied by common standards, practice, and methods or procedures in the industry is also implied. And then the contractor must work diligently. They must furnish the material, tools, equipment, machineries. And again, you will see clauses like this in the contract. And then what tools, what equipment, what machineries, what material is also stated in your PQP, ITP, and all your production quality plan and all that. So you see how they complement one another? Here they will say that the contractor must furnish, and when they furnish, they will, when they bring to site, they cannot simply take it out from the site. When they bring the site, it's subjected to inspection. So inspection here, the contract says that it's subjected to inspection or random inspection or periodic inspection maybe. Then the contract manager or the project manager will take it and then compare that with what is stated in your PQP, you see. So then the list is there because it said that you have to furnish this list, contractor you need to furnish, then here these are the lists. So are they furnishing according to the list? You see, so again, complementary with one another. And of course, the contractor must respond to any questions, any query, any not non-satisfactory performance, you see. So obviously, this is also it's not so obvious in the contract law, but this is under what we call representative from the contractor. And normally in the clauses, they will say things like, you know, there is contractor's representative, someone to accept queries, someone to accept receive instructions, somebody to respond, somebody as a point of reference on site or in your factory as the manager to respond to all this, the responsible person now. So this one here is the duty, you know, to answer all these questions. And of course, on the other hand, the client also will have representative, their own engineers, okay, or they specifically engage the designers, which is the architect or the engineer, to look after the job. So they are considered as the client's representative, okay? And in government offices, they will appoint their own engineers, and we call it SO, superintendent officers. And these superintendent officers are also actually the SO are always the director of JKR. But you think the director of JKR so free, man? Every contract he has to go to site, you see. So there will always be somebody called SO representative. So if we say SO representative, it will always be their own in-house engineers or architect with the consulting engineers representative if the design is done by external consultant. And I will explain to you that later on. This role is very, very special one. Like why only professionals give instructions. We will explain that later. Okay. So you see, when client thinks that something is not right, you know, or actually their representative on site tells them that something is not right, but they must inform the contractor. They cannot just leave it until the end of the project and say, you know, I tell you, on which day you didn't do a good job, or which point at which point you're not doing a good job. So I'm going to deduct your payment now. Yeah, that one is looking to die one now. Huh? So the moment something happened on site or something happened during the production, you must stop and tell the service provider, the contractor, something is wrong. I do not like this, or this is not according to such certain standard. We normally don't use the word like or not like. Those are very emotional. Those are very feeling sort of things. So those are very subjective. So objective is basically, you know, this is not according to certain standards. These are actually out of the range. This doesn't look right. Can be one of the words that you use. Can we double check? Can we test? Can we further test? Can we send this material for further testing? I would like to inspect further at other batches whether there is any problem or anything that looks weird here. You see, so these are, you must notify and stop that performance immediately. I'm not saying stop performance as in suspending the work. You know, you stop them from using it and quickly resolve the matter ASAP. Not stop the work as I suspend your work. A lot of engineers and contract administrators, they're very stupid one. They like to use the word, you did that, but I suspend you, nanti, you takut me or not? You know, that kind of mentality is wrong. You know, you're not being professional. When we talk about suspension of work, it's a very, very long process. You cannot simply suspend the work, whether you are SO, whether you are client, or whether you are contractor, even, you know, if you don't get paid, you cannot simply suspend the work on site one. There's a lot of consequences later on if you do suspension of work. Okay. So that's what from my experience as engineer, I've heard a lot of, I don't know, young engineers, old engineers, the engineer doesn't bring their brain to work or something like that. They don't just use the word, I suspend your work. You see, so stopping, informing, and hold on the performance or hold on the work for that moment to verify certain things is very, very different from suspension. So suspension cannot be used simply. Okay. So yeah, so that once you're being informed, okay, as a contractor, you're being informed that something is not right, okay, so you're being given a period to rectify, and then also, it must be quickly rectified as soon as possible within that certain period. But if the performance is continuously not satisfactory, of course, the client can also come in and use their own workman or use their own external contractor or use their own friend guy or whatever, their own workers to actually repair or rework and all that. But again, those are very, very serious remedies, and those are very serious things that you have to look after, because if you start to bring in other people on site, you do the work, and then who is going to be responsible for that part of the work? Is it still back to the contractor? Who's going to give guarantee? Is it back to the same contractor, or is it going to be the new guy who's going to do the work? And you ask the contractor to pay for somebody else's work, so there's a lot of other issues that are involved here. So we normally would not go down that route. So the client basically have the right. They have the right for you to do the work ASAP. And then if you don't do it, they can actually, after repeated, keep on repeating the same unsatisfactory performance. Like I said, you can go down to trying to get somebody else to do the work, and it must be agreed by the other contractor, by the main contractor who is doing the contract. Okay, and then it can go down as bad as suspension. It can also go down as bad as termination of the contract. But these are all very, very stages one. You cannot immediately jump stage one. It's like you cannot immediately start to run a marathon without running 5 km, and 10 km and 21 km, and then finally go to 42 km. This is exactly the same thing. Contractually, even though it's stated like this, the procedures that goes up to the marathon of termination is going to be very, very long and very tedious, with a repetitive notice served, and minute in the meeting, and site daily record stated, prove that the things are bad, and how bad is it, and how that it will affect the final integrity of the product, those sort of things, so you have to go very, very slow. Okay, it's not immediate. So these are some of the rights and obligations that we talk about in terms of performance. Okay, so of course they must have the qualification, means that they must have all the license. Water, you have man layer license. Contractors, you must register with UPKJ. You must register with CIDB, PKK. You must have certain heads and sub-heads in your license to do certain works. Your sub and sub-heads. Heads and sub-heads means that if there's certain heads means that you can do building work, structural work, and then certain heads means that you can do drainage, you can do civil work, water works, you see. And then under the water works or the main heads, there will be sub-heads that you can do mechanical works, you can do chemical, they will start to have smaller category of what you can do and what you cannot do. So contractor, whoever are appointed to sign the contract, must have the right qualification. They must have the right licenses to carry out the job as well. So, and then the contractor also must make sure that the material that comes in, the labor, the suppliers, subcontractors, he is totally free from any legal issues or legal entanglements with any sub-suppliers or material, or like suppliers of materials or labor or subcontractors. So it means that the company that the contractor goes in and do the job for you must be free. They must be free from any legal entanglement, any old liens and claims, meaning there's no further claims or further, like there's no previous claims. Because if they bring these people into the job, then it will affect your project. If the contractor is suddenly being sued for bankruptcy by some of the suppliers, or maybe subcontractors, or some other company that supplies the parts or the machinery or something like that. So we must make sure that they are clean. All right, so these are all what we call performance of the contractor. So they must supply the right equipment, they must do work according to the right process and the right standard, They must be able to do supervision, receive instructions, and then they must be able to perform the work in a professional manner. They are qualified to perform the work, and then they must be free from any other claims and also legal entanglements with other parties that may affect your work as well. So these are the general quality, in terms of performance. They must deliver this sort of performance to the project. Okay. So now in the contract itself, the first thing, the first thing that you will see is under the work method statement. Okay, so the contractor will definitely be asked to detail out the work method statement. Okay, there will be a clause there that says that please, the contractor will need to furnish the SO with or the client to the project with their work method statement. Okay, so this work method statement, whether it encompasses with PQP or not, is up to what is stated in the contract or what is specifically stated as the definition of work method statement by the contract manager with the project manager. Project manager, contract manager should be the same person, but they could be different. Sometimes project managers are the engineers and CA is the QS, for example. So, well, that could be the same person, like I said. If it's the same person, it's a lot easier to manage, but if it's different person because the project is really, really big, so then that could be two different parties. So with that, the contractor is the contractual responsibilities of the contractor to furnish the work method statement. So in the work method statement, he will list down how he will do the work for every component, how he will pour concrete, how he will do bar bending, how far he will dig, how much, what sort of lorry, what sort of equipment that they'll be using for certain works. You see, so it will go work by work. If the contract has 10 different works or 10 different major works, they will list down how the work procedures will be following, what sort of material they will be bringing, and then if combined with PQP, it will list down the testing or the inspection or whatever that is needed and how they go about doing those tests, how they go about doing the inspection, how they allow the engineers to inspect, etc., etc. So they must furnish that. The project manager or the client side, SO side, will definitely get the contractor to do the furnishing. Because why? It's also for the contractor's own good. If I'm a project manager and I'm the client, I would want certain things really, really perfect, you see. So I may list down a lot of work procedures that is not practical. Or I may accidentally list down things, the testing equipment or materials that are not even available in Malaysia, for example. So we leave it to the contractor. It's stated in the clause in the contract that work method statement must be furnished. It's about giving the contractor some room for movement. They are just trying to give you a chance to actually tell them how you want to carry out the work. Of course, some contractor may say that I do it like this, like this, like this. Oh, wow, it's so difficult, man. Write it down, So sometimes some contractor has that mentality of, I've been doing this for so many years. Do I need to really sit down and write a whole report, like a 30, 40 pages report on this? Well, unfortunately, these are how the industry are functioning. This is not 20 years ago whereby the contractor can just tell you that I am so reputable, you trust me, I will just get the work done, you see. So it's not like that anymore. If the contractor are not educated in that way, then that's why in companies like contractors company, now you engage engineers, you engage young people like you all to work for them. You all have been trained to write, report, do work method statement, and write down processes and all that. So you need to do that. So a lot of young engineers are given a task of writing work method statement. So this work method statement, doing schedule and all that are always done by young engineers. You see, I mean, unfortunately, that is also not supposed to be the right way lah. Even though you write it, but it must be viewed and reviewed by your senior engineers or your project manager or your bosses and all that, in case the things that you write also is too theoretical, it's actually not doable. Okay, so it may sound like a whole bunch of theory, writing another whole set of specs, for the contract. But actually, this is more on the practical. It's dealing with the physical, practical aspect of the work that will complement the specs, you see. So it's an execution plan. It's actually the real way of doing things. The specs is more on what is supposed to be done. Okay, but then the actual steps of doing things is in the work method statement. So most contract will ask the contractor or the service provider to provide their work method statement for approval. And unfortunately, when they approve you, does not mean that they will take full responsibility. They will take any responsibilities for the approval. If some of the steps is wrong, the responsibility still go back to the contractor because you propose. So you cannot say that, oh, I propose, you approve, you know. So it's not like that. Unfortunately, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Supposedly, if I approve you as an engineer, I should take some responsibilities, but the contract will generally make it sound like in such a way that, you know, the engineers or the SO or the supervisors who do the approval of the work method statement are not taking any responsibility on their approval. I think that's so unprofessional, but unfortunately that's the case. But I think even though on the surface in a stated manner is the case, but I wouldn't say that the approval will come with scot-free, you know, like completely free from any responsibilities. At the end of the day, you still do take some responsibilities for approving something that is actually completely wrong, for example. Okay, so here in the work method statement, you will write things like, you know, the methods of work, the description of the activity, how the work will be managed, what are the limit, what are the access, what are the boundary, what are the acceptance criteria, what are the plant equipment required, what are the procedures, the description of work, what are the precautions to look after the occupational health and safety, or any procedures that requires them to be very careful wearing certain gears and all that, like welding and all that. You need to provide on them with all the protective equipment and ventilations and all that. So it's basically the proposal. Main thing is the work, like the steps of the work, but also it will include things like plant, equipment, material, you know, precautions, responsibilities, all the associated, you know, like the items that are tied together with that description of work. So it has to be properly done, you know. So there are testing requirement, quality requirement, and also testing audit. So it actually cannot be so clear cut. All these are actually linked together. Okay, so you cannot just say that, oh, I'm doing my work method statement, I only write down the procedures and full stop, you know. I don't care about material, I don't care about everything. That one should be in the spec. Oh, that one should be in the PQP. None of my business. You cannot do that. It has to be complementing one another. Okay, because the linkage between one document to the other document will form the case later on. If you don't link those documents nicely together, this contract that you are going to be embarked onto, if you are actually embroiled in a dispute later on certain concerns or certain issues, if the documents are not tallying and flowing with one another, it will be a disadvantage. It will be a disadvantage to all the parties involved later on. It can be a disadvantage to the client, it can be a disadvantage to the designer, it can be a disadvantage to the contractor as well. So we have to be very careful when we are writing PQP, ITP, work method statements, schedules, you know, your work program and all that, because it makes a difference. On a good day, nobody cares, okay? But on the bad days, everybody will look at this under microscope, okay? Every single detail will be tear apart to find faults and to find ways of winning the case. That is contract for you guys, okay? So be very careful. Don't leave a room, don't leave a back door for people to backstab you in that sense, in that way, huh? So yeah, then it just as much as it's possible, it gives a full coverage of what should be the work that is being handled on site. So these are some, if not all, of the items that should be in the work method statement. Okay, not all of them. You don't have to write every single thing. Because sometimes some works, like you said, we are talking about manufacturing, we're talking about oil and gas, you know, we're talking about like training procedures and all that, you know, emergency procedures and all that. It should be more like maybe in the manufacturing or in the oil and gas and all that. It should be there, you know, pollution prevention and all that. That one maybe is more in the manufacturing and all that. Temporary works definitely is more in construction. So this list is quite extensive. I'm trying to give a very wide view of what should be in a work method statement. Again, I emphasize so many times, complementary, it must be telling, it must be in sync with the rest of the other document, especially the specs, drawings, the BQ, the PQP, the ITP, together, okay? Right. The format, of course, will be prepared and it should be reviewed by the client and their representative. So that it will be written properly. It should be written properly. It should be reviewed and written properly. Not just like I say, throw it to some young engineers who have just came to work, and then he or she go to the textbook or go back to the notes that, that she got from uni and and try to work it out like that. Well, it's a good start. Go back to your notes and write like that. It's fine, but it has to be properly peer reviewed from your colleagues and from your top management, whether you should submit that kind of work method statement. It's very important. I've got a lot of contractors that I know in, during my time as an engineer, so maybe about 20 years ago. I mean, when I first started working, everybody just starts screaming when talk about work method statement, and then they will just throw the thing to me, you go and write, like because your English is better, or you go and write because you're an engineer, So and then I will be like, oh no, I write, okay I write but then I wasn't very sure of what I was writing as well, you see. And then a lot of this that time, those days, then people are not very concerned about these things, so they'll just throw it in and throw it to the client for approval, and then they didn't realize how commitment. Once you put it in, it's a commitment already, and then it's it's a responsibility that you have to fulfill already. And then later on, there was many issue on site that the contractor actually didn't do the work according to the work method statement, and the superintending officers or their representative, the architect or engineers, are not happy with the work, you see. So a lot of issue that comes out later on. So we learn from there as we go along to treat these things more carefully, okay? And yeah, like you just don't simply write and throw it in, and then just say, oh, this is my work method statement, dear client, attached here is the work method statement for your kind approval and perusal. Bye, and then wait for the approval and perusal. So of course, as the client and their representative, you have to make sure that you also properly go through it. And if there's any parts that you're not happy with or anything, as a designer of the job, your people are doing your design, so you have to make sure that whatever that is written in your work method statement actually is going to be built according to what you have designed, you see. So treat your job seriously as well, not just when they submit, because it's part of the contract. We just, I submit, I approve also, no problem one. I have no contractual responsibilities. But you as a professional, you as a designer, when the work method statement comes, if there's anything inside there that doesn't help to do the work, that doesn't help to deliver your design properly, you must voice out and you must go back to the contractor, or you can have a design review meeting or some form of review meeting together, with the, it's nothing much. You just put it on screen, on projector, and say that, okay, your spec is like this, but this is not going to be able to do this. Can you change this? Immediately, we can solve problems. We don't really have to go ding-donging, writing letters, and all that. So, yeah, I mean, like, as a team, if you want the work method statement to be properly written, it has to be a contribution from all parties involved. That's what I'm saying, okay? So, another portion that we have is the M's, okay? Method, I specifically take it out, and then we put material, manpower, machinery, and you will see all these clauses related to this thing. It may not be specifically machinery, kind of thing, close, but it is written somewhere inside the contract that you have to pick it up yourself, okay? But it will be there. So in terms of manpower, there are two areas. Contractors need to provide supervisory team and the actual labor. So supervisory team is what we call the authorized representative that represent and act for the contractor. So that person must be on site, or they must be represented on site at any point in time. this person will be fully working on site or in the factory or in the project environment, then he must be there because he is a point of reference. He is the representative to receive communications, instruction, to give contractors response, to attend all the meetings. He represents the contractor. Okay, so he could be an engineer from the contractor side. He could be an architect from the contractor side, engaged especially for the project, or he or she could be clerk of works, which is also engineers as well, and also or at least a diploma level kind of engineers. And these are people who will be there all the time. So this is one of the very basic requirements. You will see clauses here that talks about contractors representative. Okay, and they will do a wide range of coordination. They will report to the contractor. They will help to make decisions and do problem solving, keeping record. So your work as engineers in the project field or on site or in the actual location of the project really involves a lot of coordination work, a lot of communication, a lot of supervision, and also a lot of decision making and problem solving, keeping records for the project, for your company basically So this is from the contractor's end. So these people on site, they must have good people skill. If you send somebody on site who doesn't know how to deal with people, it's going to be a disaster, honestly, And then they must have good communication skill. They must know how to talk in a good manner. They must have good analytical skills because a lot of problems need to be solved. They must have very good judgment to arrive at a decision. A lot of things you cannot say, okay, wait, I go back and ask my boss. Oh, wait, I go back and ask my boss. If you say that all the time, the work on site will definitely not progress very well because there's no immediate decision making. Okay, so this is what I was putting down as what must, for people who are working on site. These are these are the important criteria of these people. Okay, they must have good communication skills. They must be very good at balancing time, cost, quality. They must be good at working out on immediately in their brain. They must be able to work out on whether this is going to be expensive, not expensive, whether they have to accept the material, not accept the material, and that is sent by the head office directly from the supervisor, from the supplier or the subcontractor. They must keep that in track as well. So you're dealing with the client, you're dealing with the lower group of people, like your subcon, your suppliers, and all your workers. These are not an easy job. Okay, not an easy job. I always feel like contractors, engineers are very, very good. They are very, very clever people, honestly. Okay, they may not be getting all the A's in schools, but then they are very good. Okay, because they deal a lot more with just pure designs only. And then, of course, labor. Labor is the workman. Normally, the contractor will need to provide who are the workmen, especially those that are important, like the skills that comes with licenses, like electrical licenses or mechanical licenses man layer licenses or piling license all these machine operator license and all that, or crane driver licenses. So they must provide the list of these people. That general workers, normally they'll just provide like the numbers, but semi-skilled and skilled especially, they will need to provide licenses and provide the list of name and licenses for approval as well. So these are a commitment of who I'm bringing to site. So under the labor and workman clauses, normally we will see things like the contractor must provide adequate or skill, or they must provide proof of their qualification of their workmen, and all these workmen must be legally employed with the legal employment terms that is in accordance to the labor ordinances or wage regulations and all that. So yeah, I mean that depending on contract, some contracts are very, very specific on certain things like labor and workmen. That you must let your workmen work within the working hours of Malaysia systems, and then you have to pay double. A lot of they will list it down very carefully. Okay, but some standard forms, they are very general. Okay, they're very general. So you will see that if you have a specific agreement with a client, then they are very specific sometimes. But if you say that standard form normally will treat it like, okay, according to the WEG regulations or labor ordinances, your workers can provide the list and their certificates or their qualifications, and that's it, for approval. A very 2-3 lines kind of thing in that contract. Okay? They will call it provide the tradesmen or skilled labor. Tradesmen and skilled labor, there are tradesmen or skilled laborers. So basically, we will also judge on site. We will look at your workers' productivity rate. They will look at their workmanship. They will look at their job knowledge. Because once you're on site, these people are all running on site already in the field, you see. So when the supervision comes and the quality aspects comes, we will start to see that certain workers are not following the procedure, you see. And then there is a close day that sometimes you can ask the SO can ask the contractor to remove workers that don't have the right caliber, or workers that don't give the right quality of work, or not doing acceptable volume of work, you see. So that's why it's important to keep track of their performances as well. It's hard. I know it's hard because one side you've got like how many workers there? You don't get about 50, 70, even hundreds of workers running around. And then you want me to know every single person's working requirement and all that. It's quite difficult. But if, let's say, so happens to be randomly spotted that 1 or 2 workers are not behaving, they may be smoking on site next to the gas tank, they may be throwing their cigarette butts everywhere, or they are like throwing their rubbish everywhere, and then they are like, bringing in their, I don't know, at night they come and, use some of the facilities here, water, or if the product is half finished, they come in and sleep in the house that is supposed to be handed over to the client. These sort of things. And then sometimes some of them may be doing some criminal kind of actions like stealing, taking things from site, bringing things home. These are some of the reasons why there is a clause there in every contract that the SO can ask the contractor to remove their worker if they find them not acceptable. So what do you mean by not acceptable is another area of conflict and dispute and disagreement. And there must be proper proof of them not doing things in accordance to the contract repetitively, that you've already given them a lot of warning and they are not doing it again and again and keep on repeating the same mistake, or worse still, doing behavior that are actually going to be detrimental or affecting not only the quality but the safety of the project itself. Okay, so testing workmen, you will definitely see it in the contract as well. Okay, but how obviously stated is not stated in the contract. The contract usually will just talk about removal of workmen. Okay, accepting removal, approval of workmen, and removal of workmen. You will see that in a lot of the contract. Okay, I'm not sure whether you see in your contract, Amira and Victor, that you have this sort of clauses that is regarding this sort of workmen. And material and machineries, I put them together because material, these two things are like mati punya barang that things workers, workmen are dealing with people, dealing with human beings. It's a lot different from dealing with dead loads we call it Yeah. So the contractor must provide equipment, apparatus, plant, big and small scale machine to carry out the work. It is the requirement. It is their performance. So many times in the contract, it will be in the areas so that the contractor are required to bring in the machines in accordance to the work requirement, and they must provide areas to keep the machineries. They must maintain their machineries, keep them safe, and keep them from unforeseen damage or thefts or fires. It is a responsibility. The machineries that are brought to site are usually the full responsibilities of the contractor. Anything happened there, any damage, anything missing, the contractor has to pay for it themselves. Okay? Material is the same also. Material brought to site is another matter. Okay? When you brought to site, especially if we call it material on site, and material on site has not been converted to the final product yet. It's just material. But if the material is already brought to site, it belongs to the site. So even if you want to take anything out again later on because your other project needs it or whatever reason, you have to make sure that it's informed. You have to inform the SO or the supervisors of the job that you are taking certain things out. And then it's not possible anymore to take anything out if a certain level of payment has been made on the material on site. A lot of the closures, they will actually require, they can allow material on site 75% of the material cost. Meaning that when you deliver the material on site, the client will pay, you can claim for 70, 75%, 85%, depending on what is stated in the contract. Those material that has not been converted into the final product. And they only pay you based on the invoices that you buy the material from. I mean, contractually, you already put the material price within the work, and all that in the BQs, and it's all there, okay? But in order to pay material on site, normally the client will just make it more straightforward, ask you to send in your invoices, how much you pay for the material, they will pay you 75%. And then later on, when all the works are done already and all the material has been converted to the final product, then they will pay you the final sum, deducted off what they pay you on material on site. So you will still get your money at the end of the day, but just that for your cash flow, some contract will actually get the client to pay on material on site based on the actual invoices, okay? So don't be surprised the client asks you for invoice. And then if your material is really cheap, of course, sometimes you feel a bit bad to show them up, but then unfortunately, if you want to claim for material on site, it's how you should do it, okay? So once the material is already on site and some payment has been made, it's even worse that there's no way that you can take any of this material out from the site anymore. So other things that is dealing with material is dealing with the contractor. The closest will say the contractor will provide their own storage. They must handle the material themselves. The material is under the safekeeping of the contractors. Anything go missing, anything go wrong, they have to replace and pay for it fully themselves. And it's not like, oh, you put the material there and then it got stolen, you put again, and then you ask the client to pay a second time. There's no such thing, okay? So the closers will be dealing with things like that. And some closers will actually ask you to put in the production certificates, the purchase orders, the delivery schedules. It can be part of the contract, okay? So these are the things that you take note in your contract, especially dealing with materials, okay? My grammar is wrong here. Materials may require. All right. So most contract will state that machinery and material that's been brought to site cannot be taken out without permission from the client. Are you guys still with me? Are you guys still with me? You are? Okay. Hope whatever I'm saying is actually making sense to you all. Okay. Now we've done with all the 4 M's. Now let's talk about testing and inspection. So basically, testing and inspection will be done on mainly the materials, and inspection and also work method, okay, the system, the components and all that. So testing and inspection, the words you would definitely see in all the contracts. How frequently it should be done and what sort of testing it must be done. And then some contract may not go down, especially standard form may not have that kind of detail, but it will put down on the contractor is to carry out testing or provide testing report in accordance with the specifications or in accordance with the requirement of the project, for example. It can be something as simple as that. So it will encompass everything. We have to remember, standard forms are different from the actual agreement. The actual agreement, like what Emira and Victor, you all have with the contractor, and also like Natia, you have a specific contract. So it may be stated very clearly because it goes with the nature of your job, you see. But if you use standard form, then these sort of clauses may be very brief, tying in different documents all at the same time. Okay. So, but the main thing is it is always there, talking about testing and inspection. So as a part, you need to achieve certain certification, you need to see the certificates, or you send this material for testing. Like water, a lot of time you need to send to lab for testing. Sewage, treatment, all these things you need to send for testing. Test tube, you need to send for testing. Okay, and then I'm not sure about steel bars. Normally, steel bar, they will ask for certificates. They don't ask for testing. Whereby test tube, yes. Every batch of concrete that comes, you will send a few, you will do a few test tube, okay, on the thing. Wood, timber, yes, a lot of them will actually send for some form of testing. Steel bar, sometimes, depending if there's doubts, then we normally, if you receive the new cert, you may want to send for some tensile tests, okay? It is possible. Okay, and Nakia talks about tensile tests as well. So you see, so tensile test is also required, not to say it's always required, but depending on your project, if maybe you call for a high strength steel kind of thing, then you want to make sure that it is definitely according to that requirement. So you don't really trust fully the new certs, you see. So you may go for that. And then some machineries, they may go for a test run first as well. Okay. And then we will also have wood, especially timber. And you may also test things like lightweight steel as well, depending on, because lightweight steel is under IBS, and also precast are under IBS. So IBS items may be required for testing as well. Okay. And then so this is about you sending it out to external party for third-party testing. And this third-party testing usually, when the result comes back, we will definitely need a proper certification, meaning that the result must be from certified labs that is agreed by the client, and they must have engineers or chemists or whoever lab people, the technical people have to sign and chalk on it, okay? So to make sure that these tests are all valid and all done in a truthful manner, like in that sense. And that is on material, so we can have chemical tests, we can have strength tests, we can have physical tests, this strength tests are inspection. Normally we talk about verifying the quantity. You send how many. You say you send 100 bags, so we will go and have a look at whether you send 100 bags or not. And then we will also sometimes check for damages. So these are more on materials normally. So I think even in a factory environment, you also will have a certain system to test or check or inspect on materials, okay? And other parts is about part testing, meaning that when certain parts are being constructed already, you test run that part, and then you produce some form of testing sheets and schedules and all that. For example, Macintosh prop test, Borlock data, and Macintosh prop tests are very common. What else? There are a few tests on some sort of PAL. There's a PAL test. Static lock test, dynamic lock test, Macintosh prop test, slump test, and a few tests that you can actually do on site, and those are actually proper testing method that has to be following certain standards, and the contractor needs to carry out those tests, and those tests need to be witnessed and checked by all the parties on site. For example, the SO, the supervisors and all that, they will need to actually make sure that they are present during the testing, so that they all verify the steps of carrying out those tests, like slump tests, for example. Sometimes the most common simple test that you can do on site. But there are other things like static lock test, dynamic lock test, Macintosh prop test, and that all need certification from the two parties involved. And Yeah, so those testing work are also, like I said, it can be also on machinery parts. They send in the machines or they fit the machinery into certain portion of the work. They will test run the machine and then to see whether that component are done well or not. And finally, there will always be a test that called system testing, meaning that overall you test run the whole system. And that one usually will be at the end of everything. So we call it system testing or acceptance testing or compliance testing. So to ensure reliable output, like fully you test run the whole system and see whether it's actually working well over 24 hours. Like water tank, you make sure that there's you fill up the water and keep it there for 48 hours to see how much water that is lost over a certain period of time. And then if it's too much water loss, then they may be worried about seepage and also worried about leakage as well. So then we need to redo, we need to repaint or waterproof the structure again. Have to do remedial actions if the system test is not fully done. So people who are dealing with chemical treatment plant, all these things, they also need to do system tests. They need to do component tests, part tests. They also need to do on-site testing, external factory testing, external testing, external lab testing, on-site testing, on-site part testing, and also system testing. So all these things, this system testing is not commissioning yet. Once it's commissioned, means that you are letting the facilities going to run for 1 whole month, 2 months, or over the deferred liability period. Those are commissioning. Okay, so you want to go through that, like commission it for 1 year or certain period of time to make sure that it is fully working. Okay, so it's fully operating. So we do not. This is all to prevent that you buy some material that is a lot of money. You bring in machineries, you bring in valves, you bring in components that are so expensive. At the end of the day, they're not working. So hopefully it's just sometimes not fitting with the system. So you need to tweak it. You need to improve it a little bit or adjust it a little bit to make sure that it's fully running with the rest of the systems. So commissioning process is basically the owner has to be assured that everything, the whole thing is working. Then its commissioning is actually functioning already. It's not only function test, but actually let it run, let it function, let it integrate with all the entire component of the system to make sure that, like let's say water, you don't test it all the way until the people's house, you see, but you only test like within the pipe itself, you lock the two ends, and then you make sure that the system test all the pipe is reaching 9 bars over 24 hours. That is system test. But when you do commissioning, it means that you are hooking the pipe back into the delivery sources and then output sources. You need to make sure that it's running completely. People are turning on the water here and the water is enough to be used. The pressure is good, and it's okay at 5 p.m., it's okay at 10 p.m., it's okay at 6 a.m., it's okay at 8 a.m., peak hours and all that. So those are commissioning. So the acceptance of quality really is about fulfilling all these tests. So that's why in standard form of contract, we will talk about testing and commissioning. Unless it's being tested and commissioned, you don't achieve practical completion. So the idea of time, cost, and quality, they're all tying together. So once all these tests are completed, passed, and all that already, then you can issue practical completion. And that means you have achieved substantial completion. That means your time has stopped. It is already complete, the project. You're moving into defect liability period. And then this is going to be related, practical completion is going to be related to and ultimate payment. Okay, so you can see how important this level, the work that is ongoing is that will be affecting the other components of the contract as well. And these are the standard of how we will say fulfilling that standard so that your time schedule is being fulfilled, your payment, your money matters are being tied in together with that. The standard of tying in money, how much you're paying, when you're paying, when you stop the clock, all these things are tied in with all these tests that you're going to be running, you see. And it is basically talking about fulfilling the process of construction, fulfilling the process of work, together with the acceptance or the criteria of acceptance. So these testings are always about acceptance criteria, whether you can accept the work. Okay? Any issues here? It does sound really complicated in a way. I mean, but like I said, these are some things that we have to, it's some of the major aspects in a specific agreement or contract, especially dealing with engineering. Okay, I would say engineering, whether you're in manufacturing, whether you're in construction or civil, or whether you're in oil and gas, these are all part and parcel of an agreement that will appear in an engineering contract. So you have to watch out for all this. Okay. So I think one of the assignment requirement is to do something to do with this. So you need to go and pick up on those clauses that are related to maybe testing, material delivery, something is not right, on site. So what do you deal with contractually? Okay. Right, supervision. This is another big area together with inspection. Supervision are usually more on the work. You see, the work itself, the processes of work itself, step by step. You see, so supervision is really heavily involved with the progress of the report, progress of the project, and it also deals with occupational health and safety. It also deals with quality. It also deals with time. It also deals with payment. Basically, supervision means that I will explain. Let me work that I have explained. Okay, let me go through it. So, supervision means monitoring. You monitor the performance. You look at the work that is done, the quality, and all that. The steps of doing the work. You need to look at what are the work that is being planned today, this week, and how is it being executed. If there's a problem, you make decision. So you make sure that everybody is functioning together like a well-oiled machine in order to produce the final product that we are looking at. Okay, so this is supervision. So it's about managing the project. It's about looking after the project. Okay, and then people who are looking after the project in a supervision, they are considered as the supervisor. So we use the word supervisors here, but we don't. Contractually, we don't use the word supervisors. Okay, but for explanation here, I will use the word supervisor. So in building projects, normally we will let the architect and his assistant to be the supervisors. In terms of civil works, it's usually the engineers and his assistants, which are also part of work. In government contract, we will have the SO, superintending officers, which I mentioned just now. They are generally, you will see that in government contract, you will see PWD, standard JKL standard form, they will use the word SO. Okay. They will use the word SO. But then they will have an SO representative. And this SO representative are usually the architect and the engineer. So in government contract, when you see the word representative of the SO, they are usually the architect and his assistant, or the engineers and his assistant. Okay? And in private contract, like PAM, IEM form, you will see architect and engineers. They directly use the word architect and engineer as a supervisor. So these people, they are the one that will be the, you see, you can see that supervision is done by the contractors engineers and the designers engineers, okay, or the designers professional, okay, or and the contractors professional. So these two group of people, they are supervising, they're together supervising the work, but the main supervisor in the contract, we lump it under SO representative or the architect or the engineer. They are the designer side, the people who design the work, These are the supervisors that we're talking about. Whereas contractor supervisors to supervise, they are doing similarly. They are also making decisions. They are also monitoring the performance of their workers, etc., etc. We mentioned that in way in the top just now, but they are considered as contractors representative. So in the format of the contract itself, client employer is one group of people, contractor is one group of people, contractors and his supervisor is considered as one group of people, and the designer, which is going to be the main supervisor that we're talking about here. Okay, so I hope you can understand that concept. So when we talk about SO supervisors, all this, yeah, we are talking about the designer group, the people who design the work. They need to make sure that the work that is carried out, the performance is done by the contractor, will match whatever that they design. It's not too difficult to think about it, I'm a designer, I design it like this. I don't want you to build and then end up an egg, or end up looking different, or end up not fulfilling my requirement. I'm the designer, so I am usually being designated to look after the job. Okay? Why the client don't want to send his own people? He can. Some take our contract, they send their own people because they don't have a designer. The in-house is done by their own, the designer in-house. Most firm, developer or whatever, they also will engage external designer, and therefore it's unavoidable to have external consultant because these people are specializing in the designs, you see, and they have license, they have engineers and all that. So the role of the in-house one are just basically they are working together with the designated supervisors, okay, to monitor for the client, so that whenever the contract supervisors come and talk rubbish, then at least your in-house engineers know that this is rubbish, you see. So yeah, I mean, like, this is actually check and balance one another in a way, huh? But like I say, usually when we mean by supervisor, contract manager, they are really basically the designer group, the consultant group, okay? The ECP basically, huh? And yeah, so they are representative of the client. So the role of the supervisor is to protect the client's interest, but you have to remember they are officers of the contract as well. Professionally, they are engineers. Professionally, they are architects. So you cannot cite the client's interest if the client is wrong also. You still need to administer the contract fairly. It's just like the idea of payment. If the client has no money this month and they tell you that, hey, you purposely go and not certify the contractor, go and find trouble with them. Go and pinpoint on all their problems, on their underperformance, and delay their payment certification. Is that professional? So this is the part that you, as a faithful agent of the client versus your professional duty. As officers of the contract, your duty is to certify within 14 days, not asking you to be hanky-panky and send back the non-compliance report on day number 13, and then tell the contractor to rectify before you certify again, before they submit again, and you have another 14 days to certify. These are all the sneaky tricks that are being played. So besides protecting the client's right, you have to remember that in the contract itself, yes, you can have a lot of loopholes, a lot of hanky-panky. No matter what contract you have, as long as human being is dealing with it, you will always find a way to make it, to jalang lobang, to correct another lobang, or to go another back door. There will always be a possibility. There's never a perfect contract. But you have to remember that as a professional, we respect the contract. And we are the officers of the contract. Your duties and your responsibility as an SO or as the supervisors of the contract, you must do your duty not only as a faithful agent to the client, but also as a professional person. Because you are an engineer, you are an architect. Okay? So why I didn't mention QS here, sorry, because basically the SOs, the supervisors, has to be an architect or an engineer. SO is only looking after, the QS is only looking after certain aspects. They are the supporting team behind the engineers and the architects. Okay? M&E is the same also, yeah. Unless it's an M&E project, then M&E engineers will be the lead consultant. But rarely, normally it will be the civil engineers and the architect. Okay. Right. So as you see, as a professional, because you are a professional, you will be architect and engineers will be the supervisors. Like I said, they are the designated supervisors of the job. So you can see that in the contract ESCO, like this, client like this, contractor like this, contractor can do this, contractor can do that, client can do this, client can do that. So it's actually very typical in that sense, you see. It's very typical in that sense to get the architect and the engineers to be the supervisors, okay? Yeah. But they are actually inspector acting sort on behalf of the client in that sense. So, but they do have specific duties and responsibilities under the contract. So yeah, the level of nature of supervision is very important here. Certain supervision is not enough to say that supervision needs to be provided or supervision will be provided. There are some work that needs very specific for us supervision. We call it standing supervision. Okay, that is explained here. So because supervision, how frequent are you visiting? How what sort of checking, what sort of testing are you going to do, and how frequently do you do it, and what are the acceptance criteria and all that? This sort of supervision, it needs to be very clear and specific. You see, you cannot just say that, supervision for the work, supervision will be provided. The nature and the level and the area of supervision has to be very specific. It may not be written in a standard form, as in what kind of level and all that, but it will be tied in with the rest of the other documents on what you should be doing in terms of this work, work A, work B, work C packages, you see? So the level and the nature that is required has to be more specific. So if it's not being written down there properly, it will be actually supplementarily communicated with one another. Certain work may be needing a full-time supervision. Certain work may not, you see. Certain work they may just keep records and then they will confirm on the record. So that is what considered as supervision as well. Like contractor will keep record, the supervisor will randomly verify. But some work is that they have to be there to witness the whole process from A to Z. Otherwise, it's not allowed to accept, you see. So yeah. So both contractor and supervisor must monitor and progress the work. I mean, must monitor. Both sides will do that. Okay, both sides will do that. Okay, but it's just that the tag of the official supervisors are put onto the SO. Okay, so when we talk about standing supervision here, like I said here, high risk activity, there are some besides. I mean, like these are why some of the reasons that you want to monitor the workers. I mean, I'm just putting it here for you to remind you that besides the work, sometimes you need to monitor the people as well, you see. Yeah, and then high risk activity needs to be closely monitored by supervisor, and these are considered as what we call standing supervision. The standing supervision are work that require the full presence of the supervisor and or his representatives during the day of the work or during the whole entire process. If the work is 3 days, then he has to be there for 3 days. Okay. If the work is categorized as needing standing supervision as the highest level of nature, like I said, the nature and the level has to be specified. The highest level is standing supervision. So when the work is done, the contractor will inform that tomorrow we're going to carry out this part of the work and it will need standing supervision. So like example, piling, boring of the bore pile, micro pile, concreting, certain concreting work, certain important special parts of the project or installments, I mean the installation of certain parts and all that may need standing supervision. So they will have to inform the supervisor in advance, normally, as much in advance, minimum 24 hours. Obviously, you need to plan the job ahead. You cannot say that, today suddenly say, hey, I want to do it tonight. Cannot. Okay? Because the supervisor will need to be given, unless you tell them that tonight we want to pour this slab, this huge slab that needs to be there for 6 hours of pouring or 8 hours of pouring. We will be doing it until midnight. This is standing supervision. So you inform the guy, your supervisor, and he said that sorry tonight I can't, so then you cannot carry out the work. But if you give them 24 hours minimum in advance, say tomorrow night, today is only 12 at 11, but I inform you tomorrow night I'm going to do is more than 24 hours, that person has no right to say no. Okay? There's no right to say no. It is part of his work. But if you just do it, and then if you do it without asking for his permission to do standing supervision, and then he didn't come, he may find out and then he can reject or ask you to open up your work. This is one of the remedial. So if let's say you do the work, you send the thing for testing, that is another area. You send the thing for testing and the testing comes back fail. Okay? So this supervisor can ask you to open up. Okay? It's about opening up the work and redoing it, or take another look and take some component out for checking, for example. Or under standing supervision, if he is not present and the work is considered as standing supervision and no representative is present due to the reason that he is not being informed, then if he rejects the work and asks you to open up or make good later, this is all going to be at the cost of the contractor. But you may ask, what if we inform him and they don't come? Then there is going to be an argument here. If he rejects your work and asks you to open up, and if it's found non-effective, he's supposed to be paid by the client. Okay? So because if it's his fault, you give him ample of notice, you give him more than 24 hours in advance, and he didn't show up, he didn't send any representative to do the work, and yet he called for opening up because he doesn't trust your work, then this is another story. Okay? This is another disagreement and argument that will be occurring here. Okay? Right. And this is all supposed to be covered in the contract, especially standing supervision. It will be covered in the contract. Okay? The smaller group of work, like those that is like only needing some signature or needing some random supervision, periodic supervision. Some work may not need a full time, like your eyes open wide, sticking there kind of work. Then those are always said that supervision on it. In fact, the whole project supervision is needed, but the most highest level one is what we call standing supervision. Okay, then this is related to opening up and making good law. Okay, so upon testing and inspection and work under strict standing supervision, any material that is wrongly carried out or wrongly brought to site will be entitled for the supervisor to call for opening up of the work that is already covered, i.e. completed. Such must be done reasonably. So opening up and uncovering will cause certain losses and in time and money. So if it's not based on solid proof, we normally would not ask the contractor to do this thing, opening up, because it's a sure thing that it will create very, very much displeasure. There will be quarreling, there will be fighting going on. You ask me to open up, what is your proof? You see, it's also a doubt on goodwill, on the contractor's reputation, if you actually dare to call for opening up. When you call for opening up, there must be, like I say, almost like an undoubted proof that something is not done properly. Then you can call for that. It's just not like, oh, I'm not feeling comfortable, I have a dream last night and and I have a feeling something is not right. Then you call for opening up. If that is Dila, okay, you cannot do that. It must be very, very sure that you are very sure that, when they pour it, they have not done it properly based on some records or somebody is taking some videos or something that is very solid, that almost 99% certain that something is hanky-panky here, then you call for opening up. Like I said, otherwise, you cannot base it on the reason that the contractor called you for standing supervision and you cannot make it, and they already call for that concrete, and then they pour it and you don't supervise, and therefore you call for opening up. It's ridiculous. Okay, that is ridiculous. If you can't come and they give you ample of notice, you have to send a representative. So how come you don't send a representative? There's empty zero representative from the supervisor. And then tomorrow morning, you ask the contractor to open up everything. It will slow down their work. It will cost them money. So who's going to pay for all that? The big issue, okay? So these are some of the most important issues that will crop up during, quality related issue. So supervisor, you are entitled, in the contract, it will say that you are entitled to call for reworking, opening up, making good, But again, contract say something. Don't be pandai, say the contract say this, I follow this, I'm complying with contract, you have to follow everything contract. Remember, a lot of things are also implied in the contract. You cannot fully base on the stated things in the contract because there will be bound to be something that is not stated. You see, and that will be applying the implied standards. And then when that is applying implied standards, a lot of procedures, a lot of steps needs to be taken before you can pandai call for, a big huge action of rejecting, suspension, opening up, call for repair, knock it off and redo. These are all very serious problems that really needs to go step by step. It's not direct to the marathon, You have to go for 5 km first, 10 km, and then 21 km. You have to have regular training. Same thing. Contract is there not for you to take it and make it your weapon. Contract is there to make sure that all the procedures are all tied in together. It's supposed to help with the progress of the work of how to govern the action of the people involved. And when it's not listed in some of the documents, you refer to the contract. In the contract, if it's not listed, then you can refer to some of the other documents. It has to be complementary, telling with one another. This is something that I always emphasize. As a contract manager, I really dislike that attitude of, I have the contract in my hand, you follow the contract, everything like that. Yes, we respect the contract, but we also have what we call common sense, okay? Certain things, if it's not common sense, like for example, you cannot come for it, why don't you call for a representative? That is common sense. If nobody is present, because there's a miscommunication, in your office, your staff, Ali says that Abu is going to go, Abu says that Abang is going to go, and then forgot everybody don't go. Then tomorrow morning you come, you say, oh, my, then you say, okay, now contractor, take up contract. I have the right to call for reworking. I have the right to call for opening up. Under you. Okay? You don't do it like that. Okay? So you must be having reasonable, there must be certain reasonableness and fairness and common sense to your action, especially dealing with your contract. Okay? All right. Supervisors are entitled to do that. Okay, so usually, if there's a testing report and then it's not right, then you may call for a repair, you may call for adjustments, you may call for tweaking, and this is all for the good of the project, and also communication between the contractors and also supervisors are very important as well. Sometimes you have to make the contractor understand that this testing report comes back. It's not because of I want to tell you, it's not I want to make your life difficult, because this testing report is already not good. Then if we don't do any repair work, later on the system testing may fail. And if the system testing may fail, the problem is a lot bigger than now. We take it out and repair it and put it back, or adjust it and repair and put it back again. It will take you 2 days. But then if later on system fail, you don't even know which area it fell, it may take 2 months to even detect the problems. We do have issues like that. It can take months to do testing and commissioning. Don't play and don't joke, kind of thing. So because it's not initially detected, they don't respect the testing report and the supervision of the work well enough, or inspection. They don't do it well enough in the earlier stage. And then end up contractor disagree, and then followed by problems. The whole system is not working. Okay. Well, actually, we are a bit short of time. Okay. Should we just leave this for now? I will complete it next week. Let me see the assignment now. Whether we have, because I need to leave some time for your assignment, you see. It's already 10:15. I think I need to call my husband to ask him to pick up my girl. What am I doing? I need to open up assignment. Okay. What the assignment question is already. No, wrong. Individual assignment. All right. So yeah. So this part here, you can do definitely. Okay. So meaning that the testing report indicated that a specific part of the project is not complying with the project requirement. Exactly what we're talking about. It can be a test, it can be standing supervision, it can be works, it can be anything that is not fulfilling. It doesn't have to be testing report. It can be inspection. Okay. It can be inspection, it can be, something that doesn't fulfill or comply with the project requirement. So based on the contract documents, you proceed with, yes, Natia?
Dr. Ting, for that case study number 3, can I talk about this?
Can you let me finish explaining this part first? Then we will go to one by one for your query.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So this is about any part. It doesn't have to be a testing report. It can be an inspection procedures. It can be standing supervision procedures that indicate that specific part of the project is not complying with the project requirement. Okay. So then after that, you base on the different clauses in the contract that is dealing with material, supervision, instructions, a few areas you explain how you're going to resolve this. So are you going to get the contractor to open up? Are you going to get your are you going to call for repair or rework? What kind of actions will you take that is actually fulfilling the contract requirement, besides being practical and have some common sense and being reasonable with the final outcome of the proposal? I would like to see some reasonableness in your way of overcoming the problem here. Okay. So like I said, it can be anything dealing with non-compliance, as long as you have an NCRR, non-compliance report, NCR, then you can use it for this case study. Okay, so basically, we've done case 1, case 4, and case 3. Okay, today you can proceed with case 3. All right, and now I think I will leave the rest of the class. There's 2 more components, especially another one called instructions that I haven't covered. So I will finish up this pre-contract visits and setting up, and also instructions. Okay, and also variation. Okay, the word variation comes into the picture now. Instructions and variation. We will finish this up with suspension, termination, access, nominated subcontractor, contractor, dispute. I will leave it to another fully dispute resolution class later in the last week. And then I think here insurance, I'll be dealing with that. So the next Saturday class will be also quite a lot of things to cover as well. Okay, I think that's about it. We will leave it the rest for next week, and that will wrap up the whole contract. Basically, we have covered the entire contract already. I'm just wondering if I've missed out on anything. Just remind me if I miss out on anything, okay? Because some of you are dealing with contract in the office, you may have certain issues that I didn't cover, So like I said, sub-nominated contractor, nominated subcontractor, supplier, insurances, suspension, termination, instructions, variations, access, pre-contract, site visit, setting out, instructions. Yeah, these are the things that we have to finish covering. I'm feeling that I am missing out something, but I can't sort of hit my head at the moment. But like I said, dispute will be the very, very last, which we have a specific section on dispute resolution and on arbitration, litigation, adjudication. So that will be the last 2 class. And next week we'll finish up with all these major issues in the contract and with the law of tort, TORT. That class I'll probably go by pre-recording completely. Okay. All right, so now let's go for your assignment.
Doctor?
Yeah?
Doctor, aren't we supposed to have class tomorrow?
No. I've already mentioned that I will leave the last two class to the last 2 weeks.
Oh, so we don't have class tomorrow, Doctor?
No. We don't have
Oh,
class
okay.
tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay. Now, Nettie, with this assignment number 3, you all want to ask me questions first?
Yes. So doctor, for my case, I have NCR, I receive NCR for my project. So I'm going to talk about the NCR that I received, what is the NCR about and how we dealt with it and whether we agree with the NCR or not. Is that okay?
And then we have to fall back to your contract proposal.
Okay. And then for the case study 4, can you explain a little bit, because I didn't get last week. I mean, I didn't get what is it all about.
Which one?
For the payment part, like for the payment, we have issues like the late payments and all. So should I include that kind of payment or?
I don't understand your question. What do you mean like you didn't get the payment last week? I mean, like, have you listened to the pre-recorded lecture?
Yes, but I don't get it. I mean, like I cannot relate with my contract.
Well, if it's a very simple, if you have no issues with payment, then you just have to write down the procedures of payment. Very
Just write
simple.
down. Okay.
Yeah, this is so simple. What is your procedure? Explain the payment issues. It doesn't have to be payment issues. If there's no issues dealing with delays or any late payment, then it's just basically how you are dealing with the payment procedures in your contract. So what does your contract say about your payment?
Okay.
So first you have to submit claims, correct now?
Yes, we submit claims. Then from
Then?
there they will assess the progress.
And then?
And then they will, yeah.
Then what? After you submit the claim, then how?
They'll check the progress
They check the progress, and then how?
according to the work program. Based on the work program.
You prepare the work program.
Yeah.
No, I say in terms of payment issue, we are not talking about time issue here. So after they check the progress, your SO have to do what? It's all being explained in the lecture, no ma'am?
Okay. I'll listen back to the recording.
Yeah, because all the payments are the same. It has to go from a claim. From a claim, then the progress will be checked, and then there will be certification.
Yes, certification.
Yeah, there will be certification right now. Then after
Yes, correct.
certification, certificate, you issue interim certificates or your penultimate certificates or your final certificates. And then what is the procedure here? The client has how many days to pay? You know, the minimum for this case study is for you to describe the whole payment procedures that is in the notes.
Okay.
I didn't post I have pre-recorded lecture. No, what happened last week?
Last week we did the assignment. We discussed about the assignment.
Am I right? And then I did post the pre-recorded lecture.
Yes,
correct?
Yes, you posted.
I'm trying to recall. I'm also very blurred already. So the
Okay.
pre-recorded lecture, I actually explain what is payment, what is interim payment, what is claims, what is the actual certification, what is certificate. These are all procedures for certification. But if let's say some of you have issues, like let's say payment issues, like you are waiting for your client to pay you and they have been delaying payment for 3 months. So then again, you have to refer back to the payment procedures in your contract documents, exactly what is written in your contract documents, whether it's a standard form or whether it's a agreement. That I think yours is a specific agreement, isn't it?
Yes.
You use standard form or it's your own company's agreement?
It's the client's agreement.
Correct. So if the client's agreement, then you look at what they have written about procedures.
Okay.
If they say that 30 days, they must pay you after certificate. Have you received the certificate yet? If you have already
No.
received the certificate, how come they're not paying you 30 days? And then you have to
Okay.
explain that this is wrong already. In terms of contract, this is a wrongful act. They are not paying according to the 30 days that is stated in there, or they may score for 60 days, or they have 90 days. I don't know. That's why you have to look at your project. Understand, Nancy? Yeah? You don't scare me
Yes,
like
yes,
you don't
understand.
know. You have no idea what is this all about. Oh,
No, I just didn't get it to me. That's all. I'm clear now. Thank you, doctor.
okay. Right. So you all understand, case study 2, and 3, So 3 is about non-compliances, Okay, so let me finish Fazana's report first. Let me have a look. I actually opened it up the other day, and then I took a look, and then I just read through it, and I was, Fazana, are you here?
I'm here, doctor.
Yeah, wait, Okay. Right. So your project, you have introduction, like I say, is going to be just, okay, if you want to do this sort of introduction, it's fine. I have no objection, meaning that for every case study, you will have an introduction that talks about the general theory on the issues, correct? Not like EOT,
Yeah.
payment and all that. So payment, then later on, the other one, you have to talk about non-compliances and inspection, supervision, whatever, that sort of theory.
Yes.
Okay, fine, that's
Yes.
fine. Okay. Then the background of the project is also fine. You've got about, a little bit here, and expand a little bit, and then you talk about, make sure that you talk about what are the sum of the project, what are the final sum of the project, how long the project is supposed to be. You can expand this a little bit, okay?
All right.
The contractual points of the contract itself. Contract particulars lah. And then this is about the project, the problem. Don't use the word like explanation on related contractual issues, just the contractual issues. We already know this is about the issues here, okay?
Okay.
Or is the issue related to possession of site or delays? Then you can just directly write the issues, delays and possession of site, straight away write that.
I see. Okay.
If you have a lot of issues, then you just put related or contractual issues, But if it's very specific, only about delays and also about delays, then you write about delays,
Okay.
The rest also, when I'm talking about this thing here, can you all take a look as well, so that you all on the same frame of mind as well, especially those who are actually still working on your case study 1, okay? So here you talk about, you explain the scenario. This is not the issues, you need to talk about the scenario first, Fazana. So this is the scenario.
So okay.
Your heading is not matching. So you see explanation on the related contractual issues is not so much on the contract. It's not so much. It's about it's about the problem itself. Okay. So this is not really what we call contractual issues. It's more on the problems, okay, or what happened in that way. If it's a delay, okay, then you put delay, okay? Because I see that you're describing what is happening, what happened,
Yeah. So I should put like generally about the delay or how?
Yeah, I mean, like as in your scenario lah. Where is your problem? You have the contract here. This is the problem. The problem that has occurred. Fazana,
Okay.
Or if you talk about contractual issues, I mean, the word is not right. I mean, from the way that this is written here, this is not contractual issues. These are more on the problems or issues.
Okay, so
You are description, or we call description of the problems, you see?
mm,
Okay. So then you say, okay,
okay,
now what happened? The site was handed over, and then the progress was going on. And then from this China, these things are not working here. All right. Something went wrong.
okay,
Okay. So you need to describe the problem. And it's common among everybody. You need to describe the problem first. Okay. So, and then after you describe the problem, then it's about those contractual, this problem are related to the contract, you see? So here, maybe you talk about relevant okay, something like that. So relevant contractual sections and clauses. So now exactly is you need to talk about relevant contracts and sections. Okay, that is applicable. So you don't write the word that is, you don't write a long headings now. So basically describe, okay, now this contract is applicable, is JKR short form of contract. Okay, and then now you straight away go to the issues already now. Okay, now the delay has occurred. Okay, and under
mm,
contract, delay is handled by which clause, which sections. Okay. Wait, you say that, okay, give revised completion date. No, I don't really like this writing here. I mean, like it's not fulfilling. You have to write, okay, this issue of delays is related to which clauses, and this clause states what? Is the
is
arrangement
it,
of the arrangements of
is it,
your work is very poor. Yeah.
is it the fourth paragraph, doctor? I put the relevant clauses
Yeah,
for
yes.
this
This one.
project.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not describing the problem anymore. Here, you just talk about the relevant contract, JKR form, and in JKR form, clause number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 15, number 16, it deals with the problem that we are facing here. Understand?
Oh, okay.
Clause number 1 states whatever. Clause number 13 states whatever. Clause number 14 states whatever. Clause number 36 says extension of time. Contractors are allowed for extension of time. So you are talking about the relevant clauses and contract that is related to your, you pick it up from the contract document and then you put it in this section.
Ah, I see.
You've
Okay.
already described the problem. The problem now is dealing with
Yeah.
delay, site possession, and extension of time. So then the relevant clauses that you need to put in, you need to put it in here lah. Something like this lah.
Okay.
And then you say that this one is related to which part of the problem. This clause is related to which part of the problem, and this clause explains what, you see?
Mm-mm. Okay.
Then using these clauses, how is this solved? So again, you can combine these two parts lah, you see? Because if this one is only about the clauses, it macam like
Yeah.
short lah, so I think it's better to
Yeah.
combine like how is this clauses related to the parties in the contract, and then number 5 is the one that how the problem should be overcome lah, in that sense lah. Based on
Is it the is it my item number 5 is okay, doctor? Because I explained it based on the clause. If is it okay?
It's not okay in the sense that it's sort of like very dislocated. These two parts are very dislocated. Here you never talk
Oh,
about six, and then suddenly you talk about six. You see?
ah, okay.
Here you talk about EOT, but then here you don't talk about the clauses related to EOT. You see? So I think it's very important that you properly write that the standard form, this is a standard form that is related. And then the clauses that is related, number one, this clauses is the clause number one is related to this particular problem from the perspective of this. The clause is about this. In the clause, the contractor is supposed to do this, the client is supposed to do this, the client, something like that. And then follow on, clause number 13 are related to the issues that are here on site possession. And then in this clause, what this clause is all about, and in this clause, the contractor is supposed to do this, the client is supposed to do this, So you explain that. Okay? So that's why I said this two is actually same thing.
Oh, so
Some
should we
people,
combine, Doctor?
you should,
Okay. All
okay?
right.
And then your answering or solution must be related to your section number, this section here. So with the way of carrying out things, this problem should have been solved like this. Of course, you in this case you can add in both contractually and practically lah. Like I say, I do want to see some sort of practical, reasonable common sense. Not everything. Oh, the contract says like this, or therefore follow like this. So
Okay.
some of you can even though the contract states that the client is responsible for the failure of the, then they can actually also then you can add in some practical aspects of things as well, to enhance how you actually prepare to carry out the contract way of doing things, for example. You understand?
Yes.
You're having a lot of small sections, but all these small sections are not valuable.
Yes.
Don't really need summary of studies. It's just a case study, so it should be okay. Huh? You might as well
Okay.
just combine it with the solutions to overcome. Unless
Solution.
you feel like it is not interesting to have a section, like a full section and you have one paragraph. You see, a full section with one paragraph.
All
You
right.
understand, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know where the problem is. So I think you need to change your format.
Okay.
Your formatting, the way that you're approaching, you're lining up your writing.
All right.
This is not going to get you high marks. And then I think some of these issues that you're written here, you see, you're not properly explaining. You have 13 here, but here you're talking about EOT as well. But here you don't explain on EOT, you see.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, it's very simple, ladies and gentlemen. The whole approach to this essay is, number one, talk about the project, what this project is all about, and what happened, the issues, the description of the issues or the problems. Okay. And then after that, you talk about the contract and the relevant clauses that are applicable, and then what are the obligations and rights of the contractors and all the parties in the contract based on those clauses. And then from there, you already understand contract supposed to solve the problem like this. So how do you overcome the problem now? From the contract perspective or from the very practical perspective, or can you combine? But we prefer to see from the contract perspective lah. Okay. And it all depends on your issues also. Sometimes if the issues are actually not covered in the contract, then you may have to bring in the implied or the industry standard of resolving the problem. See, then you can state that it's not covered at all in your standard form, or it's not covered at all in your agreement, that particular issue. Like I said, it's very difficult. This part here, solution to overcome, there's no one formula. Okay, it really depends on what are the issues. If it's just like what I said to Natia just now, if you don't have any issues in your contract, that is just an explanation of how payment should be carried out. That is fine. So it's not really a solution. It's just procedures for payment. Okay, so you explain the procedures, practical procedures that is related to contract. It can be something like that. Okay, but it can also be a problem that is not resolved at all, that you see but it's not resolved at all, or is resolved wrongly. Now you can take the contract and try to resolve the problem according to the contract. Okay, or if it's done according to the contract and there is dispute to it, then how? What can you do? You take the clauses in the contract and then you also apply some form of physical or practical way of resolving the contract so that we can, at the end of the day, the whole issues can be successfully resolved, isn't it? So you see, there's many aspects here of how you can, but the front approach is the same. You know, description of the problem, description of the clauses, these are all the same thing. Okay? But it's the way that you approach the solution or the final bit that is also depending on your cleverness lah, in the way lah. Understand, Fazana?
Yeah.
The rest also you're okay, huh? I need to look at who. Another one that sent me the word is what? Amalina, is it?
I think I said it yesterday, doctor. It's Nur Amira.
Sorry, doctor, just a question. Riley here.
Doctor, I cannot hear your voice.
Oh,
Or
oh,
is it?
sorry. I muted myself. Sorry. Okay. Yes. So
Doctor, sorry, Riley here. Before you discuss on the MIRA assessment, can I ask a question? Just can we put a figure or a photo in the report?
can no problem.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
You can. Riley, do you have any issues with your assignment? Are you up to payment already?
Yeah, I actually case one and case two lah, payment and the EOT. But I also include the photo, the real life photo lah, what really happens on site lah. So is it okay if I include that or not?
Can. I mean, like, okay, depending on what are the issues, are you dealing with, I'm sorry, case 32 is supposed to be payment now, not variation. I haven't covered variation with you guys,
Okay. But for my case study two is the variation. Just a brief explanation on my case study. My VO is on the discovery of the rock boulder lah. So I put the photo of the rock on site lah. Yeah, that's it.
Is it additional work or is it
Yeah.
production?
Basically, addition because there is no provision for the rock excavation in the contract or BQ. Yeah.
Okay, can.
Alright.
So that means basically sorry, not supposed, I've actually changed. Remember, I actually WhatsApp you guys on an assignment because I put it in E-League because the E-League one is actually the former one that was being moderated. And I mentioned very clearly in class that case one is time, case two is payment. The one that I sent to you guys is actually at the balik gun 4 and 2, you see? Because you cannot do VO now because I haven't explained on the clauses related to VO. Okay? But it's okay. Since you guys have started, some of you have started already, I will take a look later. Okay, I can explain later, okay? But today, after today, you're supposed to do the one that is on time, payment, and also non-compliance. These three things. VO is the last one. Next week, after that, we will talk about VO. Supposedly today I have to cover VO, but we don't have enough time. Okay. But anyway, both of you are QS or something like that. So I believe you know about this thing lah. So again, variation order, you are going by they try to be the same format. Amira, if your previous one, when you talk about delays and all that, is written like this, then you better have the same format all the while. Don't
Yes.
don't one later on like one thing, another one, another thing, you know. So
Okay.
if you guys are talking about introduction, just a very simple introduction on the what is the theory of like what is introduction of variation order or the issues that you're talking about, like delays, extension of time, you can talk about that. And then follow the same format. So the case study one also, you write this case study objective is to do one. Background, which is the same again. Okay, it's the same thing as what you've done. It's not, maybe like I said, you guys change it to description of the problems or description of the contract, because related contractual issues sounds really weird, you know. So try to use the word description. I want you
Description.
all to describe the problem. Or just use the word, make it simple, description of the problem. Can we all do that, ladies and gentlemen? When you describe what happened, okay, when you describe what happened to the issues, what happened to the problem, describe the problem, okay? I don't really see this as Amira, I don't really see this as is this additional work or variation from your actual work?
Because we suddenly have a new expansion project that requires another additional machineries because with the current machineries that were allocated during the night shift, it's not enough for them to actually do the breaking of the casting bed and then to do the breaking of the dry slag. Because due to the project, they have to change the current contract that we have to allocate another additional headcounts and machineries to help with the breaking of the dry slags.
Yeah, but then from the description here, I really can't see, I really don't know what you're talking about here. That, it's like telling me about the additional, like what happened, you see? Yeah, describe to create a new platform. You have to be very clear about what is being added. Like what you say just now is very clear, but what is written here is not what you say, you see?
Okay. Okay.
Like, were the handler having difficulty to complete his night task?
Because he has to share his machinery to do another thing, which is help with the expansion of the wet slag pond.
Yeah, but your focus of your writing is wrong. The focus of the
Okay.
writing is you don't really want to know why you want to create this thing. I mean, like, yes, it's important to say to talk about why the additional work is required, but you must describe the additional work and what is the purpose of the additional work and how the additional work will save the problems, solve the problems and all that. Why is it absolutely a must to have this additional work, and when is this additional work called for, and is this being approved by the top management on all this additional work? Your writing here are like talking about everything and anything that is not related to the work itself.
Okay.
You get what I mean? I mean, this is not, overflow of the Morton is a major safety issues, and then it was found the excavator was contaminated, blah, 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 blah. After I finish reading, I don't know where your additional work is as only in this sentence. Create a new
Okay.
form. You see?
Yeah. Okay.
This is the only thing that I see that is talking about variation. The rest is all about storytelling. All right, so the description.
How about the second part where they have to change it because they couldn't reach to the further part. So that's another amendment again they have to do.
Yeah, that is another amendment that you do, but you have to be very clear about that particular amendment. For me, it's as a person, as an examiner reading this, I only see talking about what happened, you see. So be very specific, don't be around the bush. The excavator, a new excavator is called for. An additional machinery is required.
Okay.
Be very clear. You can talk about a lot of things like, like about safety issues, mobilize, all this molten thing, hot blah, 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 cause explosion like, like what on earth is that? You see, like, why do I need to know all this? All I need to know if variation is there's a new machine that is required. And that will cause additional, you see? You are stretching your problem to everything else besides the problem.
Okay.
Description of the problem is not about you guys talking about stories, I mean, yes, some stories is required, because at the end of the day, I need you to describe the actual thing is the additional thing. So what is this additional thing? This additional thing is to build a new pond, build an extra pond, and this extra pond is heart size, and how big, how dimension, how different is it from the original? How much would it cost? How long would it take? You see? Concentrate on the problem. Don't concentrate on what happened around it to have it. You are like concentrating on talking about the whole story, ding ding dong dong, ding ding dong dong, ding ding dong dong, and then later on say, oh yeah, we need to create a new platform. You see? That is not description of the problem that I am looking at. I'm looking at the actual problem. Time is delayed, you see? what leads up to the delay? Yes, so the delay actually occurred. And how long was the delay? That is description of the problem. Okay?
Mm.
So you say, okay, now on the other end, there is some difficulty in handling something. A new machinery was called for. The new machinery, what type of machinery is needed? Why is it needed? And how much time will it need to get the machinery in? And how much will the new machinery cost to the original contract? Then this is talking about the description of the problem. You understand, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes.
So then this section here on the clauses and session, again, like I explained to Fazana just now, if you need to take out the clause itself, explain on the clause itself that is related to that additional work. And then after that, what was the responsibilities, what are the duties of everybody involved? You see, you talk about higher occupational health and safety management system. Is this an OHS issue? You're running off the issue already, Okay, so this part I'm not happy. Okay?
Okay.
Anyone else?
Me, Doctor, can just a glimpse of a review lah, can
Can open it? I
Okay.
clear my screen first. Your Amira, your assignment one was more clear than this one, I think maybe you don't understand what is variation or whatever. I think leave this for now, and then go and do your payment punya thing first, and then do
Okay.
your NCR punya thing again, the non-compliance thing as well. Do that first
Okay.
before you proceed with this assignment, okay? Yes, Riley, yes, can you go to your first page?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Okay, so basically this is my structure like what I informed previously. So for event of delay, I explained on the the definition, and then I explain what really happens on site, which is a delay event.
Yeah.
Okay, and explain, and this is the situation lah. The 20 reason about the proceed, and then this is the, and then and then these are the actual clauses that related to the contractual obligation.
Okay.
So like I explain one by one. This one, clause 41, and then the submission under the clause. Then I explain each one by one on the clause and the related to the obligation. Okay.
Yeah. Good.
This is the clause, and then I also after the clause I explain on the what really happens lah. Yeah.
Good.
Okay. And then submission. And then I explain on the contractual entitlement. I put the how it happens lah. How we going to give the contractual IoT.
The EOT
And,
lah. Okay.
yeah, and I relate with the clause also.
Correct.
And then this the entitlement, the calculation. This one basically based of my previous, because from my previous company, I am preparing this analysis lah with the planner. So I'm sharing here for my academic purposes lah. Is it okay, Kak Doctor?
Can, definitely can.
Oh, okay. So they are given 120 days. How we going to give them, and then for the proposal, I also relate again with the clause. If you read the clause for FOC, they explain how we mitigate all the anticipated delay lah. Then explain with all of this, and then I come up with the conclusion. Yeah.
Proposal to overcome is it's just basically what you've done. Summarize whatever you've done. Like, the contractor was asked to submit the EOT, based on the
Oh, okay.
reason. The document was submitted, and then after that, it was assessed, and how much was assessed, how much was entitled, and then how much was issued, and how long did you get all these things done? This is what that. So
Okay.
don't beat around the bush talking about neither here nor there. But of course, you can also put in like other common unstated things lah. Like for example, they are being advised, to do this, and then they have to. They are advised to keep documents properly, the records properly. These are not in the contract, but don't focus on everything that is not in the contract, and then some people are just focused on everything that is in the contract. So you need to find this part is the part that I really want to see you guys being able to execute the contract carefully, in that sense, with respect to with respect to some common sense, reasonableness, and also and the actual contract itself, how you combine these two, physical, practical, and contractually.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Doctor. And now we move to the VO.
Yeah.
VO. Yeah, this is the VO. Actually, the same structure how I do the delay lah. So explain where is the variation, which is for the addition, discovery of the row, and I mentioned the photo lah. This is I think last year or last 2 year, I can't remember. So this is a photo where we discover the. Sorry.
You hold on here, and Amira and the rest you all to take a look at this This is what I mean by about the problem. About the problem, meaning that what was the issue here? The issue is there was no for Riley's case, I think you can expand a little bit how you are too brief here. So what happened for this additional work? Is it because when you arrive at the site, when you do the work, you find that it's actually not there in the drawings, you see? So something like that. And then what is the additional work that is required? And then what happened? Did the contractor apply for variation or SO on site tells the contractor to do what? So this is the actual problem that I'm talking about. You understand? And Amira, because I was I'm not sure whether I'm explaining it to you well, you see, because I need you to go straight to the issues, not beating around the bush, talk to your company, flow, systems, and all that kind of thing, you see. So, then about the production line, and how your production line has to be this, that, and then you put one sentence, the pawn is required. You see? No, you have to talk about exactly what happened, like it was detected, what was detected, and then what was the additional work. Okay, so Riley, continue, So so yes, it's fine, but I think you need to expand on the problem a little bit. You need to write a little bit more.
Okay, I will explain in detail about the problem, and then we move to the.
Come about, okay?
Okay, so these are the clauses and the contractual obligation. The structure is still the same. I explained. We started from the identification variation, and then we PTVO. PTVO normally happens in the step punya project lah, proposal to issue variation order, and then SO evaluation.
RS punya form again.
Okay, and then SO evaluation, and then last one is the VO issuance from the SO lah. Yeah. So I will explain in detail how the process.
Hold on. Contract, are you still using the JKRS contract, or this is another one?
No, JKRS, FOC.
JKRS got all this PTIVO and all these things,
Basically, I think PTVO is the company policy, so I relate with the FOC lah.
Okay. Can. But you be
Because
because I didn't see you saying that this what contract form you're using in this particular example. So I thought this is something different.
Okay.
Okay, so when you talk about C and D, so contractually and your company one, you split them out carefully,
Okay, doctor.
So it's supported by your company's policy or your company's procedure as SOP, that sort of things, you see?
Okay.
Okay, go on.
Okay, so and then I think I haven't finished lah. So I explain in detail again.
Can. I think you can, like I say, hold this as well. Hold this for a while because we haven't really explained on that section. Then later on, proceed with the payment one first. I think the payment one will be very easy for you as a QS. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, doctor. And then one more thing, Ansha, For the case study number 3, I think for the non-compliance, can I use the case study talk about the geotextile? Basically, the case is like this: the geotextile ordered by the contractor is not same with the project requirement lah.
Okay. Okay. So this is the description of the problem, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, okay.
The geotextile that was required, the project required geotextile for whatever reason, is which part of the work, the geotextile cost how much, it was specified as how much. But then when the thing was delivered on site, it was during the inspection, it was found that not according, or the testing report or the specification report was not in accordance, So this is the problem. Specify the problem, describe the problem. Okay?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Doctor.
But yes, that one can be used as long as it's something that is differing from the project standard, differing from the site, differing from the work process. All can be used. Okay. All right. So far there's no other people that email me anything anymore. What about Victor, Clarence? Natia already asked a question just now, so no issue. The rest all gone already. Only the 3 of you left. And anyone wants to me to help you, Victor?
Doctor, can I try again?
Try again. What?
Can I share the case study number 3? I mean, I'm scared like other people they want to do. Okay, probably you can ask if the others want to do it. Then
Yeah.
I'll.
Give a chance to others first, huh?
Yes.
Victor, Clarence, Amalina. Victor, I'm a bit worried about you. The last week you weren't very clear about what to do.
Okay, Doctor.
You're okay, or you want to share something, or you think you're okay?
Maybe I need to share something, but this one is just a draft lah. So I need to. Okay. Can I share first, or
Yeah.
how?
Go ahead.
This one is regarding the VO lah. So I use Dayang contract and Shell contract. So initially, Dayang was appointed by Shell for hookup and commissioning of D12 platform. Then this one actually during my previous project lah, 2015. Then I'm going to share all the project on the in the background, and then the problem of this project actually is additional. Actually, we need to install the deck extension for the ABV, but we need the thunder crane to lift the deck extension lah. Initially, we don't foresee that we need a thunder crane to install the deck extension lah. So this is the problem lah. Actually, the deck extension was not in the initial scope also. So that's why we don't foresee the crane lah. And then this is the relevant clause that related to BO. Then this is the obligation document to submit VO, and then authorize SSB whether to proceed or not. This one determined by SSB, and then this is more to contract lah. Then
Generally, it's about VO, right?
yeah.
Okay. The way that you are doing the flow is there already. Okay. So basically, you need to describe the project itself. Be a bit more specific about the project itself. Put in some drawings if you want to, and then after that, the project is supposed to be from when to when, the contract particular, the total cost of the project. Yes, that's fine. So the way that you write is a little bit messy, but then I can see all your points there. And then the one is on the additional scope of work, you have to have a separate section on that lah. It's either under 1.2 or it can be a separate section on like you can actually directly put it under the description of the problem. I think in case the contractual problems, stroke issues can also you can put it there, but then additional work and how it is described, the description of the additional work, all that needs to be under a separate section. Okay. You don't really need to have a 1.2. If you're describing the project itself in section there, then under the contractual issues and problems is the part that you will describe all the additional work, like requiring a thunder crane, then additional days, 7 days, you know, all these things need to be described properly, not just in point form like that.
Yes. Actually, this one is draft. I'm about to explain this in paragraph lah.
Okay. So then this part here on the additional work scope has to be combined with whatever that you're writing in the that work extension was not in the initial scope. This part here, okay, that will describe the problems, that will describe the issues, and then following down, go down again. Then the relevant section and clauses, that's fine. But when you do the relevant section and clauses, combine that with the other part down there. You have this part on rights and obligation. Yeah, two has to be combined. Okay.
Okay.
Right? And then how this procedures was dilancarkan is on the proposal part. Okay.
Okay.
That is fine. I mean, the flow is there already. I think you already catch what we want. Hopefully, the one on the extension of time, you are quite clear also. Just follow the same flow lah.
Okay. So this is the contract lah.
Yeah. So the contract itself describes the contract. That the contract is a contract by by Shellka or Huaka. You know, explain the contract, relevant contracts and section stroke clauses. So the clauses that are taken is this clause and this clause section 6. You describe what is section 6, and then after that, what is the rights and obligation of all the parties under this section 6, you see?
Okay.
Whatever clauses that is there, the rights and obligation, you describe it at the same time.
Okay.
So based on the issues above, the contract clauses that are required is as below. Clause number 6, what is clause number 6? Overall, what is clause number 6? In clause number 6, the contractor is asked to do what, and then the whatever is asked to do what, and then under documents they are supposed to do what. You know, so you describe that clause very well in that sense. Okay.
Okay.
So I think it should be combined now. But
Okay,
are you sure that the clause actually cover documents that cover? You go down, because here you say that this clause variation only, and then at the back here you say documents are authorized requests. Are all these in the clauses, or you are the one that write about this?
Actually, this one is draft from the clauses lah, but still in the midst of explaining the contract lah, in the contract.
Okay, all right, huh? So
Ah.
you understand now, huh? So this one under that, is it all under the same clause, or they are all from different clauses?
Under the same clause.
They're under the number 6 variation clause lah, kan?
Yes. It's actually document and what they need to do lah. Then
Kind of.
request for quotation, and then what contractor need to do, then authorize. This one talking about approval lah.
Okay, can.
Okay.
But you must properly describe them, not just copy from the contract macam tu.
Okay.
Right.
I think that's it for me lah. Okay,
Okay,
thank
good.
you. Dr.
I think you are on the right track lah, huh? Okay.
Okay.
I'm happy that you are taking your own contract and look at your own contract. That is what I want to see from you. Because the other day you're talking about some PWD contract that is not even part of your contract, you see.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier if you do it with your own contract. Makes life easier for yourself because you're already in the work, you're already in the project. You look at the contract, it all makes sense. Then you go and describe a PWD contract which totally doesn't make sense to you, and you try to squeeze everything in there. It's just going to make yourself difficult only. Okay?
Okay.
I'm glad Amira, I'm glad Victor, I'm glad Natia, you're using your own contract. Huh? Riley, you're using JKR, but you've got a lot of company procedures. You have to describe them very clearly, which is the close, which is the company procedures. Okay? What about clearance and Amalina?
Can I share mine, Doctor?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Which issue are you looking at now, Amalina?
Case study number 2. Can you see my screen, Doctor?
Yes.
Case study number 2 is on the amendment in the scope of works. So I'm still using the same case study as I did in the first case study. So the issue of variation in this project are two. First, the variation in the quantity of the quantity of the area to be covered first, and second is this variation in the scope of work. Initially, in the agreed BQ, the area should be covered was 3,076 meters square. But upon the completion of the works, the subcontractor realized that there was supposed to be 3,800 meters square to be covered, a difference of almost 700 meters square, which will also incur cost. So this is the variation of area. However, this variation was only realized during the final phase of the construction, after all the agreements have been done in the first place. However, when the client went down to the site and the measurement has been done, they agreed that there was variation in the quantity of areas to be covered. However, due to a tight budget, they did not want to pay more. So, which means like the contractor himself has to pay for the remaining areas to be covered, amounting around 95,000. This is 20% out of the original contract price. There is the first variation issue here. The second one is the thickness of binder cost to be laid on the roadworks. Initially, according to the JKR roadwork specs, it has to be 60 millimeter of binder cost. However, due to some settlement, the client requests to proceed with, instead of 60 millimeter, to proceed with 120 millimeter of binder cost, which is not agreed in the BQ in the very beginning. The same issue as the first variation, the client did not want to pay more, so the contractor has to pay for the extra 60 millimeter binder cost.
Okay.
So the clauses involved are 3 clauses. First, the SO's instruction in the PWD. In the PWD, we know that SO has the power to instruct whatever that he wants to instruct, as long as it does not change the scope of the work. For example, changing the scope of work, initially it was supposed to be a building, then he changed to be a hospital. However, in this variation of works, since it is mentioned in the condition of contract, the SO has the power to instruct the contractor to do so. However, in the variation of works, the client is supposed to submit three documents, which are first, the variation of work. Second would be the estimated cost. And third would be the extended estimated time given to complete the additional works. Second would be the variation. Variation are divided into three: an addition, omission, or substitution. So basically for these two variation orders, both are addition. When it comes to addition, we know that it will be an additional materials to be purchased, additional cost to be needed, and additional time to complete the works. And the last clause would be the valuation of variation, where the where the SO should go to the variation works to remeasure whether the amount of works have been completed. So there are many ways to do the valuation of work, such as the agreed rates, where they will use the same rate as mentioned in the agreed BQ. So that would be the way they do the valuation of variation, because the item is the same, the works is the same, it's just the area that is adding and the thickness that is adding.
Okay.
So moving on to the
So there, it's going on to be too long already, lah. I think for you to settle it, I think it will be just sufficient. You just talk about one of the case should be okay already. Okay.
okay.
There's no point on talking about two. And then again, you should be combining the rights and obligations of the parties involved. The closest you are picking is definitely the correct one. Okay. Like I said, I haven't covered variation and instructions today. So it's fine that you all are not very sure of what is right, what is right lah, huh? Like I said, you can hold this assignment later on until you finish on variation and instructions. Okay. But the one that you're doing at the moment, as all instructions and variations are all okay, are all correct, and then the instructions are all correct. These are the rights and obligations of the parties involved. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So explain that again. You can actually combine that. If your upper part is very long, like are you like double describing things? Because I saw that you already described the close, and then are you also describing the SO instructions, like in terms of the rights and obligations? If you're describing it together, then maybe you can combine them rather than split up into the three, like two different sections.
Because in case study 1, I remembered you mentioned to differentiate this process, because the 1.3 is just to explain based on the PWD, but 1.4 is to relate with the case study.
Yeah, but in some people's case, like what I see today, the closest is only like a little bit, like one or two only, you know, or then the description is very, very brief, and then they have another separate section. But yours seems to be okay, because you seem to be very, very detailed in the description of the post, and then this is the part that you describe the rights and obligation. It is fine to split. It is also fine to combine. Okay.
Okay. All right.
But I'm very curious on this case is what was your proposal to overcome again?
Our proposal to overcome. So I'm working at a maintenance facilities management maintenance company. So our works are always the small ones. This is the biggest we have, 450,000. So in order to proceed with work, we will have to get the approval money from the client. So usually the preparation of BQ, they do not have things like provisional sum, PC sum, or contingencies. The items in the BQ are just preliminaries and the work itself. They do not have any allowance for contingencies. So when this happens, the client are at a tight budget according to the whatever that is written in the agreed BQ. So when there is a variation of works, they couldn't afford to pay more. However, they want works to be doubled. For example, the area has to be increased, the thickness of the binder cost has to be increased, but they do not want to pay. So the proposal to overcome was nothing but because it's a PWD contract, a contractor must comply to whatever instruction given to the SO. So as a result, we did comply to the instruction of the SO at our own cost. So it means that the contractor is using his own money that is not reimbursable to the client, but still has to pay the subcontractor for doing the works, because the subcontractor is entitled for the payment that for the works that he has done, even though that the contractor is unable to claim from the client. So
Okay.
the issue
I
is
think the
we
way that
completed
you
the
write
works.
here, I don't quite like it lah, because I don't think this is the way to overcome the problem lah. The way to overcome the problem is about resolving the issues, not saying that okay, I take my life as it is, and sorry, because of this I I can't claim, because the client has no money. Are you doing charity work here? You're not.
What again, doctor?
A lump sum contract or a BQ contract? Can I ask?
It's a BQ contract.
BQ contract, is it a remeasurement contract, meaning that you do how much, they pay how much?
The remeasurement after the phase 4, they still pay the same amount in the initial.
No, you're not answering my question. Yes, they are paying the same thing, but the thing is, if it's a BQ contract, it's a remeasurement contract. If it's a remeasurement contract, only the rate is confirmed, not the quantity. If
They
there
do
is
not-
an element of remeasurement here, why you did remeasurement? Okay. If this is a lump sum contract, you probably have no room to fight for it. But this is a BQ contract with remeasurement clauses in there, then there is supposed to be a remeasurement. And when there is a remeasurement, you have to times it with the remeasured clauses. So the answer cannot be, oh, the client has no payment and therefore I'm so sorry, I do charity work. So the contractor's right here is to get the remeasurement confirmed by all parties, and you have to continue making a claim. Okay?
We did proceed with the claim, but it was the same answer because they did not agree to they agreed to remeasure, but they did not agree to the remeasurement of BQ for the works that they have for the works that the contractor has conducted. We have submitted our claims for the additional works, but they did not agree on that.
Then somebody has to go and fight for it lah. You cannot just
It is supposedly
see?
it has to be that way. Supposedly it has to be that way, but we couldn't fight for it.
And I haven't finished yet. The other thing that you need to look into is the instructions. Was there a formal instruction given by the SO?
There was a formal instruction, but only the scope of work, not on the cost, not on the time. It's just an instruction to change the scope of work. That's all. That's all in the instruction, and it was a verbal instruction, after all.
Oh, that means you guys are too trusting to the client.
Yes, exactly, doctor. That's
Ah,
the mistake we did. That's the mistake we did because we didn't
Yeah,
have the
so-
letter, the official letter. So we couldn't counter them back because we didn't have the letter.
Before you proceed, the SO has a limitation to the instructions that you can give. That is because the client do not want the SO to be so powerful on site that whatever he says makes sense. Okay, I actually put it in my notes here in my variation and instructions. There are limitations to the power of the word. And if you don't carefully read that limitation of the power, meaning that the SO don't, if let's say the client specifically said that the SO that cannot give instructions related to additional work, okay, or changes in work, then whatever instructions that he gives, you should not pay. Okay?
Understood, doctor.
Yeah.
That is supposed to be the case, right, doctor?
Yes. So it's supposed to be the case. So you must write like that. Like whose fault is it? Like what negligence your side play and what their side are actually playing as well. So you have to write like that. Okay. So that is all his given instructions. But unfortunately, according to the contract, these are a limitation. Is there a limitation to his instructions? And supposed to be after instruction is given, there must be a follow-up confirmation.
Agree, doctor.
Confirmation, you don't go and straight away do. You see, they say 120 verbally, once that recorded, oral instructions is also instructions. Okay? It is considered as implied terms. It is not stated, but it is implied. But implied terms, normally if you guys are following the contract carefully, they don't write, you have to write to them.
True.
You
Agree,
have
doctor.
to write to them to state that this is called for to change to 120. The additional cost required will be this. The additional time will be with this. You see?
Agree, doctor. Yes.
So you have to put this in your solution, Amalina.
Okay.
Okay? And then after that, when that this is given, and it is written there, if within 7 days you don't reply me, I will assume that this is a confirmation. Maybe you can write something like that, no? But
Okay.
no matter what, you need to have a confirmation in the form of a variation order.
Mm.
So now they
For
don't
example-
give you an order, you go and do it.
For example, right, doctor, they gave us they gave us the verbal instruction, so we demanded for the official instruction. They did not give us, but they gave us NCR instead. How should we do it?
Then you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing NCR is why. What is NCR? Because
Non-compliance.
60 mm. You say 60 mm.
Yes.
Are you doing according to 60 mm?
Agree, doctor. That's what we did actually, but maybe the contractor side was that we demanded, but they didn't give.
You cannot accept the NCR. You should tell the NCR.
Okay.
Because if they find that you only do 55 mm, you got balik 60 also.
Okay.
You give them the 5, you don't give them the other 60, you see?
Yes, true.
See, some on your side, people are being very stupid here. They are not managing this thing properly. They are just like, okay, you ask me to do, I do lah. But later on, the office people worry. My boss worry about it.
Yes,
Then
exactly.
You have a very, very bad project manager in your gang here. That person should be sacked, I tell you. Okay? So these are supposed to be following this procedure. They give you NCR. You should have challenged the NCR. Why are you not challenging the NCR? People give you NCR, you straight away give them another 60 mm. Then you guys are very, very, you guys macam kambing, you know. You are lamb. You are a lamb here. A lamb for slaughter. Okay? So I really need you all to, especially in this part now, your situation is you can't do anything because you guys are not following a lot of the procedures as well. Okay? But my advice is, let's say if you're asking me as a contract person, continue claiming. Continue writing on the fact that he gives you the instruction.
Okay.
Don't let go. If you let go, these kind of people, they will do it again and again.
Okay.
Continue writing letters, continue claiming, continue saying that you need to pay me.
Okay.
And if not, send him a lawyer letter.
Okay.
Get a lawyer to write him a letter and say that you're not paying me enough. It makes their life difficult. Even if you don't make their life difficult, you send him a legal letter, they will need to start to talk to you. You see, have a meeting and start to sit down and have a conversation here.
Yes.
And if you really don't pay, if they refuse to pay, at the end of the day, the losses, you can take the legal letter and then go and claim for your tax exclusion because this is a losses, you see.
Okay.
So these are the solution. You have to go from the perspective of the contract, what was done and what was not done.
Okay.
Yeah? Very interesting case. I mean, I've seen some cases. These are the very sneaky kind of client.
Yes, true, doctor. Because we were stuck in that point too, so we didn't have any choice.
Oral is also acceptable. All oral instructions is acceptable, especially if you have WhatsApp SCAR or whatever, all these things. You have to keep it on. And then oral can also be because you've got other people. When he gives instructions, there are other people as well. You see, so
Yes.
in that sense, you have to prove that it was an instructions given. Don't say that because it's oral, you have no case at all. You see, oral is an implied one. Many instructions are oral, but normally we would say follow up with written.
Okay.
next time if you have a case like this, you must write to them as a contractor. Write to
Okay,
them and tell them that you instruct me to do this and this is the cost. You give me a bill, or otherwise I don't work.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, doctor.
So this is how you should go about writing this part here. Don't go and write. Don't go and write like, oh, the contractor has, the client has no money and therefore we do it for free kind of thing, you know.
Okay.
So follow up with the way to overcome this. This is a proper way to overcome it according to the contract. Then if you can write like from the perspective of two different people here, from the client perspective and your perspective, what you have done wrong, what they have done wrong, I think it will make a much more better kind of report.
Okay. All right.
All right, huh?
Okay.
I
Thank
think
you,
that's
doctor.
about it. Okay. Yeah. So you continue, but I don't like the way you write your proposal to overcome. Huh? You're not
Okay.
following you're not reading enough of the contract to overcome this issue. Okay.
Okay.
And Mira, you want to show me clearance? I will take a look at your work. But again, like I said, next week is going to be so busy for me. I will try my best to take a look. Okay.
So I'll share my screen now.
Can you all have no class? I mean, like it's already 11:30.
I'm fasting today. Oh,
No class, as in there's no 11 to 1 o'clock class, right?
12 to 3.
Oh, 12 to 3. Okay, can. You better hurry up, because I need to go and do something so soon.
Okay. So for case study 3, for the testing report,
Yes. Can I have a look at your issues?
okay.
So your introduction there, I see that you write a lot of things, but then actually they are not the right things. So go and have a look at the notes today and then write according to in the area of testing, supervision, and all that.
Okay.
Okay lah. I mean, like I see that you keep on you really like to write all the details of your chemical compound and all this sort of things. I mean, it's not something that is really necessary lah.
Okay. I will remove.
I mean, again, your problem is you're beating around the bush. You're not really telling me what is the problem here, you see. What was the non-compliance, you see? The non-compliance is what?
The non-compliance is when there's contamination due to mishandling of the casting bed. So, for example, if there is a concrete or, for example, bar, this can actually contaminate the sample. So, whenever the lab, our in-house lab, will take the sample, it will affect the grades of the manganese, the silicon content. So, I actually relate this to another sales contract. I don't. Is that okay to do that?
Thing, your procurement contract or something like that, is it?
Is something like this.
Purchase, so it's about the item that was purchased that wasn't in accordance, is it?
Yes. So according to the like, for example, if we have a sales, so we have the specific chemical specification and also the physical specification that we have to meet. So, for example, if there's contamination in our SFG or FG due to the negligence of the contractors when they're handling our SFG, this can affect our results.
Your
So,
purchase contract is what? Your purchase contract is to a supplier or to your contractor?
this is to us, but I relate this back to the provision of machineries contract because warehouse would handle the all the SFG and FG flows. So, but I relate it back that they have to they have to the FG has to be this has to have these specifications.
Contract, please be clear. Who are you signing the contract with? I mean, like your problem of this guy not fulfilling, not buying the right thing. Who bought the thing? The contractor bought the thing, or you bought the thing?
This is our customer. The customer bought our FG, our finished goods.
So
And
I mean, like I don't think you should be relating it to that lah. I mean, like this nothing to do with the contract. This is
but
only
if there's like contamination due to the negligence of the contractor that was handling the SFG,
be looking at your terms and agreement with the contractor. You can promise to give gold to your buyer, but you never ask the contractor to build gold, you see?
okay.
So it has to be your contract with the contractor. Whether your contract with the buyer says heaven and earth, that is your problem. You promise them. But what is your contract with the contractor? They must provide what kind of chemical content to do this, then they must provide. If they don't provide, it comes, it tests in your lab, not fulfilled. So you are asked to reject. You reject. So you reject based on what? Because your contract says that if your contractor supply this thing here to do this thing and is not there, your lab says it's not there, then you can call for rejection. This is what I want to see. You see?
Okay.
You have to be very clear, Amira. Your sales and purchase with the it's just me as a developer. I have a contract with the contractor to build my 50 houses. Inside there, I have my requirement. I need to use what one foot by 1 foot tiles. What kind of quality of tiles? What kind of colors of tiles? What toilet I use? What door I use? What? Whatever I want to use, I have to put it down with my contractor. Correct or not? So if my contractor don't provide, then I look for my contractor.
Okay.
Then I have to start to, activate my contract with him. But I cannot take my contract with the house owner. I promise the house owner that I will be giving him golden toilet. And then your contractor don't give you golden toilet, then you say that your contractor is wrong based on the sales agreement that you have with the house buyer. Do you think that is correct?
No.
This is the scenario that I'm seeing from you now. Basically,
Okay.
promise them this. But in your contract with the contractor, did you tell the contractor that you must do this? If you say yes, is it reasonable? Can it be done? Maybe it's not even reasonable in the first place. Your testing requirement and your mix requirement, all these things has to be properly projected to your supplier or your contractor. I ask whether the purchase contract that you get, is it you are procuring this material from somebody? If you are procuring this material from somebody who is a supplier, then I will provide the material, but the contractor is only provision of the work and the machinery. Then this is another issue already. Meaning the material is provided by you, but the work is provided by them, and then something went wrong. So what was the thing that went wrong? You see? Then you must go back to the contract and see which part of the contract actually cover what is wrong, you see? If your contract with your contractor that say that you provide the material and end up the material not fulfilling the standard fell, and then you go and penalize your contractor. But I'm not going to do.
But sometimes because they mishandle for example, sizing, if they do screening, if there's problem with the wire mesh, then it's their responsibility.
I know, but that has to be proven, my dear.
So if I were to say that the testing is, I use like the in-house lab to do the testing on the chemicals and the physical specification, is that correct? Is it applicable?
is your procedures. If the contractor wants to challenge that, they can always ask you to bring it up to the neutral party lab.
Ah,
Okay? Like if they
okay.
if they're diam, they accept it, then okay lah. You save yourself some that one. Then if they want to challenge it, let's say now the situation is they are providing the material, they are providing the work, then it's very simple. Everything is their responsibilities. Any part goes wrong is their responsibility. You didn't handle it well, you bought the wrong material, whatever lab, then it is your responsibility. If my lab find that your material is not up to that kind of percentage, then I can tell you I reject. Okay? Based on my contract. Your contract says reject or replace or whatever, you must follow your contract. So after they replace or reject or whatever, then if they go and challenge you, say that your lab is actually too high standard, or macam your lab is not well equipped, it's not calibrated correctly, I want it to send to chem science. Then you have to work out whether you allow that or not.
Okay.
Depends on the issue here. Okay, like which part. Let's say you say that okay, there is a non-compliance already. The first thing is you have to find out where the non-compliance come from, my dear. And then back to your contract, whether the non-compliance is actually part of the contract or not. Like I said, if your contract don't say that they supply the material, but you provide the material, then if you find that the lab one is rejected, then how can you penalize them, you see?
But they're the one that handling all the SFG, meaning the breaking. So if, for example, they do not handle it properly, they scoop together with the concrete and everything.
You have to prove it. Okay? That means that the original material that you provided, it was tested first, it was completely according to the requirement, and then the later one that was actually done was not. After the mixing, it was not, you see? So
Yeah,
then
we
you have
actually.
to properly prove it first before you can make any claims.
Oh. How about example if we take samples before they cast it, so means that it's purely coming out from the furnace without any interference or any like breaking, just purely from the furnace, and we test it, and then we will compare these two values and see whether they are the same values or not. So that's how the process usually are.
Original material, obviously that it will lose strength after you put in the furnace. So you must have a limitation there although it cannot be 100% in, 100% out kan. Do you guys have a limit? Like let's say the testing limit, it's just that I said grade 35 concrete, correct or not? I said my contractor must supply me the grade 35 concrete. My contractor called for grade 35 concrete. It was proven that they called for grade 35 concrete. But then when the concrete test kit come, it was 33.6 lah. Okay? Then the question is, do I allow 33.6? So where is the limit? Where is your deviation?
Okay.
So is it stated in the contract? Is there anything on deviation? If no, then what is the standard deviation that you normally use with the material that you bring in? Like things that are already been processed and things that are fresh, kan dia tidak sama. I mean, for me lah, I mean, as a very bodoh punya non-manufacturing person lah, I know that masuk like that 100%. Even if I melt gold lah, kan, I take 1 kilo of gold, I go and melt gold lah, come out really 1 kilo ne?
No.
So then you must have deviation. Then you must set the deviation. If you guys are not setting the deviation, then you are trying to rip the contractor off.
If for example, like my contract document doesn't mention all of this, it's just like very general. We have just KPI, no contamination, and then like proper lot clearance, like ensure the space that we keep it. They have to ensure there's no contamination at the area. Is that okay? It doesn't like have.
It's okay, definitely for you as a client lah. But then you say that you exercise the contract, tak salah. Tapi the contractor not happy. Next time you go and find the whole world no one wants to work for Pertama Alloy anymore. So have to be reasonable lah. In another words lah, huh? Let's say if the deviation is not that much, then up to your factory punya engineer you calculate, dia mungkin only 5% deviate kah, you know, or whatever. Then boleh lepas kah, tidak lepas kah, then you decide lah kan. Not everything is contract kan, you know, like I mentioned today so many times, contract is dead, contract is mati punya barang, orang is hidup punya, you know.
Okay.
To get the project going, to have good relationship, to keep yourself in business all the time, to have people support you in your work. You know, you need to be able to follow the contract, make sure that everybody knows that there is a contract to follow. Bukan contract there untuk macam like vase macam tu, cantik saja, untuk perhiasan saja kan. We are serious about following the contract, but we are not robots, you see.
Okay.
If let's say the deviation is not a lot, then we reject, or we don't reject, but we need you to add in some things or whatever to upgrade, tweak it a little bit. Then that can be the way lah, kan? Then
How
it makes
about handpick, like for example, we know that there's contamination, so they have to provide manpower just to handpick the contaminations to
ah
segregate off.
then you said this is a solution, no? After testing, after inspection, you know, you request them to, you know, like repair a little bit lah.
Okay.
Right, huh?
Okay,
That
well,
could be your proposal lah. So remember, the proposal to solve this thing is not that, oh, I follow the contract A to Z, you know, like cannot bend, cannot run, cannot move, you know, like everything mati macam itu, you know. You have to be able to be flexible, but flexible within a certain limit.
okay.
Contract manager, you have to be able, as engineers, we have to be able to stand in the middle, be officers of the contract. Okay, solve problem. Bukan wants to you don't want to push somebody into a corner so badly that you know that you are creating a bubble, a perfect bubble that everybody will follow, and somebody cannot follow. Then you want to kill them and make them out of business.
No.
Exactly. You know, like it's a very small market in Kuching, in Sarawak. We also want to have a good relationship with people, especially in your industry. It's very specialized, you see. So I'm sure there's not that many, like there's not like 20 contractors lining up wanting to do Pertama Alloy Ferro job, you see. I think that about what you make him, then they declare that they will never take like Amalina just now. You know, they will say that this client, I will never want to work with him again. Then if there's no one else that you can get, or they're a lot more expensive, then later on, nangis pun is you yourself. Okay, so as my opinion in terms of contract, bring some common sense into your contract. You understand? Okay. Not to say be flexible to a point that people ask you to bend 90 degree, you also can bend 90 degree. Contract is there for us to abide, for us to follow the rules. But when you say that is the bottom line, you see, you don't go past that. But then anything else above that is to resolve the problem in a better manner. I think that would be something that I as a person, I think as a manager who deals with you know, like various people in construction work, I prefer it that way lah. Because it's good for the project, it's good for the other things, you know. Not the world doesn't revolve in one single thing only, and that is your company and your contract, you see. So a lot of things must be long run, long term.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen some engineers who are very, very unreasonable. You know, and there's this one story that I have. Of course, the contract will say that the material that you bring to site has to be clean, you know, in a good shape and in it's clean condition. And then this engineer follow the contract. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with him following the contract. See? But then when he sees some mud on the steel bars, he said that I reject. I said, why you reject? This steel bars is common, but after, you know, driving through like so many roads and so many things to arrive at the site, you think that the steel bar can be shiny and clean. You know, the way most is maybe before we use it, we, you know, give it a spray, you know, to clean it out. And then you know what? He's so stupid enough to ask us to use a toothbrush to brush off the thing. You want to be like that? You know, it's like, isn't that stupid? So I mean, like, this is the first time. I mean, not the first time. I've seen engineers like that. And
Okay.
they can be very loud and clear. I said, my contract says this, you see. Yes, I only put it in my heart and call you Bodo only, ma.
Okay.
So be flexible, be flexible. I mean, be flexible, but flexible within certain boundary, put it this way, have common sense, There's always a solution to things that can be done and make everything good without having to sacrifice somebody's interest, put it this way, But follow the contract, yes. You know, in your case, it says solution is follow the contract. The contract says this, they have to replace, they have to do it at not their own cost. Yes, but then you can also add in the other part of the solution, maybe after discussion with the team, the deviation is not a lot. Only within certain limit, we allow them to pass, for example, something like that. You know what I mean? You have to understand that nothing is perfect. Machines are not perfect. Furnaces are not perfect as well. Your lab equipment are not perfect as well, you see?
Okay.
Okay? I think that's
Okay.
enough for today. I'm very tired already, okay?
Okay. Thank
But
you.
there's a lot of good examples here from everybody. All right. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Doctor.
Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Bye-bye.